In 10 years, the Eastern Kingdom Federation would fall in a great war, and to prevent this, the man had to become a patron. With this in mind, he didn't expect things to escalate to this level. He was a salaried slave, working 78 hours a week, until he could possess a noble in the fantasy world of the RPG game he played. He considered this a good thing, and read about it in a book. In this world, he was illiterate and had no special powers, being served by butlers at every meal. He could also be helped with his baths before bed. The young master of an earl's family was useless and spoiled. However, he found this new life great, compared to his old one. The maid said the young masters would return tomorrow, and he should sleep early. However, the boy seemed not to know this family, and she noticed. However, that name seemed very familiar, Palatio. He began to dunk his head in the bathtub, and felt like he was in Psychedelia. Psychedelia was a turn-based RPG he played in his other life. No matter which route he chose, the 5 great ones appeared: wrath, greed, sloth, pride, and obsession. The kingdom, the nobility, and the city would begin to perish when they appeared. Among them, the Palatio house had the eldest son, Leo, the king of prostitutes. The second son was Tonio Palatio, the king of drugs, a family of troublemakers, and it was a side quest before the main episode began. He was supposed to investigate the kingdom of Asteria at the Palladio house. This house was involved with prostitution, drug trafficking, and an organization called Avalon. This quest gave him chills when he played the RPG. The Palladios were the first to be attacked by the 5 great sins. The extra villain was the third son of the Palladio house, Alan. Our hero wants to go back to being a salaried worker who worked 78 hours a week instead of being there. He didn't want to live a life of luxury and die in 10 years, as that was worse than 6 months of unpaid salary. He possessed a character with no power, and that was tragic for him. Knowing what would happen in 10 years was like being a prophet. He can remove what makes this world perish by predicting the future. Thus, he decided to change the 5 great sins so he could have a peaceful life. However, at that time, they were still children, and it would be interesting. 2 months later, they rescued the orphans from the Eastern Human Testing Center and left the orphanage's care to a girl named Eudia. This was Evan, Alan's knight. Our hero said he was very good at predicting people's abilities. The knight didn't know if he was being ironic, and he said yes, asking Evan to work together as soon as possible. He couldn't get used to the young master's new demeanor, as he used to be quite obvious with his emotions. The body's possession had apparently hardened his face. Evan is a rare character in Psychedelia, always honest and loyal, even amidst all the betrayals. Evan will find out why the girl's name is Eudia. Even with eyes that had seen much as a mercenary, she didn't seem like a normal child. She was strong enough not to understand why she had been imprisoned. Evan asks him to bring her there, as there's no benefit in keeping her imprisoned. Instead of neglecting her or merely using her, he preferred to let her be part of his plan. Eudia is a non-human who signed a contract with otherworldly entities for power. She will become the wrath of the 5 great sins, eliminating hundreds of thousands of people from this land. But she won't become wrath if she grows up in peace. He will remove this bomb from the path, letting the girl be a normal person. He gives Evan a flimsy excuse, stating it's not yet time to release her from prison, explaining that no one should talk about it and that he should invest funds in the children of the orphanage. He also delivers a letter to Eudia to see how she is. Therefore, he asks him to reassure her, as she has been through many traumatic things. He will enter the cell to deliver this letter of comfort to the girl. Even if he didn't know it would reassure her, the letter's true purpose was different. To use the phrase I've seen dozens of times, this is a spell that can make a non-human friendly. The Archbishop said this was the sin of wrath and told her to calm down, reciting the agony of darkness, impassivity of light belonging to the fall, which was a prayer. During the story of the sin of wrath, it was too late, and she tried to be calmed but failed. As soon as the Archbishop failed, the fight began. However, now it won't be too late for her since she's a child. After that, he will take care of the next event and become friends with a monster because of a phrase. It will work since everyone worships some god from another world. It's difficult to figure out how these sins think as they are lunatics. When Evan, the knight, visited the girl, he felt a strange mana and aura, as if this child had no emotions and emanated a lot of magic. She asks if Alan sent this message to her. The girl, starting to get angry, asked why he didn't want her by his side. Evan was speechless and in shock at the amount of mana she manifested, for that way it would only be possible by being in the realm of mastery. He repeats the man's phrase, stating that it's not time yet. She says it's a promise only she and her master would know. She claims to have understood what he meant. This girl was the sin of wrath, daughter of monsters, the Blood Queen, and Yusha. Meanwhile, he is about to sleep and would like to further his luxurious life. Finally, he falls asleep and sleeps. Suddenly, our protagonist starts looking for something and doesn't find it. He is informed by a knight that they saved the second child he requested. They assured him she would be treated very well after being saved from the illegal slave market. Suddenly, Count Palacio Tonio's second son appears, kicking the door, asking why an illiterate person is holding a book, and found out what he was studying. Annoying his brother, he tells him to answer something. Our hero doesn't know how she endured this, and he even wanted to retaliate, but he held back. Our hero kneels, saying he will leave so the other can use his library. Suddenly, someone hurls a knife in his direction and says this is making too much noise. The Count's first son, Leo Palacio, doesn't want to see his brother's fluids at this time of morning. He says his brother stinks of drugs and tells him to leave the room, and the other responds aggressively as well. The county of Palacio vanished very quickly in the game, and its strength is greater than he thought. Basically, the brothers are fighting for the position of family head. The great figure of the underworld, the king of prostitution, and the manager of the large-scale cartel, the king of drugs, were fighting among themselves. He couldn't mess with either of them for the sake of his life. Soon, he crawled out of the library, along with the one-eyed knight. He will live happily, being the weak and useless son. Instead of getting involved in this fight, the knight of Atapalho says the second son doesn't seem normal either. The knight wonders how this being found out about the slave market, and biological experiments happening in another region. It seems he has been preparing extensively for this mission, stating that the young master is quite peculiar, and that he sent the child to the orphanage. Our hero heard him say that the child was not normal, and he is right. He is of catastrophic scale. As a united kingdom, composed of several nations, the central nation is the Kalian Kingdom. The one they saved from the slave market was the second chief of psychedelia, God Moklian. After being sold and mistreated everywhere he went, he became one of the 5 great sins, being the sin of sloth. Then he annihilated the kingdoms in the most horrific way possible. It was at this part of the story that many players were surprised by the game's cruelty. Contrary to his nickname, he was known as someone who worked hard to make them pay what they deserved, which is why he emphasized that he should be treated with great kindness, as he would repay that in the future. The reason why the protagonist sent him to the orphanage could not be said yet. Soon the letter he sent to Yuta is about the second child. He said yes, and with a little conversation, he asked her to take care of the sick child he sent. The girl arrived at the second sinner and said he seemed completely broken, showing signs of mistreatment. She recognized it was the black goat's fault, and even so, the great moon chose him, and the girl congratulated him. He should feel the power he received and let his potential be unleashed. If he were loyal and followed orders, he could have his revenge according to her. Then the girl sent her reply with a slight bow. He began searching for the third child, and the knight arrived announcing a problem. He said that the second young master had passed away. Our hero did not expect this, as it was sooner than anticipated, and they went to the funeral. He knew this family was troubled, yet it fit perfectly into the dark fantasy genre. Anyway, for Tonio to die from an accidental fall was different from what had happened. In the game, it was his brother who eliminated him to become the heir to Palladio County, and he had a lucky look on his face, though not for having eliminated him. Either Leo or his followers eliminated the older brother. In any case, other problems needed to be resolved before that. A year passed, and with the succession problem resolved, Leo became in charge of the cartel. The county became even more peaceful, and he and Yucha became friends through letters. Reading the letters, he thought they were good children when they spoke of normal childhood matters. The list grew, and it was interesting that more sponsors continued to contribute to the small orphanage. The knight received a call from an information guild about a clue they had found. Our hero felt relieved. It must be books about ancestors and the third boss. Everything was going well on this peaceful morning, until something happened in Marigogo's drug den. The eldest of the Palacios family was considered generous, as the organization had hundreds of members, until several of them began to be eliminated by 2 people. A spell made these people eliminate themselves with their own hands. Someone controlled all of them with dark puppet magic. Another white-haired girl also helped with these deaths. The boy said he had no reason to do this, and she asked if he felt pity for them. However, he said they eliminated people to create drugs, and that had nothing to do with his revenge. This is the foundation to create a space for him. The girl said this and that they could leave it messy for when he arrived. The 2 did this according to someone's greater will. The Indian moon would be his sword. She recited these words. He left a moon mark on the ground after his crime. He had been exchanging letters with Ayutja for 2 years, and Evan, the knight, arrived tired to speak with him, saying that the 5th child had finally been sent to the orphanage. Our hero saved the remaining sins during these 2 years. He had trouble finding Greed, who was the 3rd, but having Evan work with his knowledge of the game worked. He told him to rest, and asked if the young master was happy. Our hero said yes, and tried to smile, but he couldn't. He didn't expect things to go so well, because in psychedelia, the 5 sins became what they were due to their horrible past. Even though this was now the past before they became sins, the chances of saving them before they suffered these events were low. He was worried about rescuing them after they had been traumatized. However, at the orphanage everything always went well, and they had seemed like broken dolls. But now they were illuminated and full of energy. Our hero then thinks they no longer need to hire a separate caregiver for each one. He didn't think Ayutja would do such a good job, given her role as the sentimental character at the orphanage. Ayutja was good at certain things. In her letters she said everything was fine, that he shouldn't worry about anything, not even the other children. Our hero believes they are growing up well in a precious environment. Evan says he should get to know the children, as he always plans to. However, he didn't truly plan to meet them, as he claimed. Even if it was good to be close, they didn't have the personalities he'd like to have around. Perhaps because of the brutal way the sins were created, it wouldn't be so bad for them to be saved from those events. However, he was still afraid, and wondered how they would be 5 years from now. He needed skills to protect himself from the damned fantasy world. He didn't need talent for magic, and his body was perfect for learning it. Our hero trained a bit of magic to protect himself, while Evan spoke of the Blue Moon. Our hero had never heard of it, and he was told about the organization that gained fame for hunting criminals. Our hero thought it was good they were cleaning up the scum of the world, and had never heard of them. Evan heard they even eliminated nobles, and our hero should know about it. Our hero gets scared, and tells Evan to sleep near his room from now on. The red-eyed girl asked to hear the weekly report. A blonde girl began to recite and spoke of the North, saying she decapitated slave traders. This was Seal Rang, the sin of pride. The sin of greed, Renee, says the bodies were charred. Another sin says their mission in the South was also completed, dealing with illegal human testing centers, and grinding the troublesome Diavalon into a bloody pulp. This is the sin of obsession, Raiden. The red-eyed girl says everything is going according to the greater will. One of them states that they exist for the sake of the Great Moon. This is the secret organization that works for the Great Blue Moon. They say a problem has appeared. This problem could occur when everything was perfect according to the moon's will. Obsession says that the head of Avalon is the Count's eldest son, who found a dangerous written order while in the South, saying that the Count's eldest son seems to be after your greatness. A letter says that after the Count's death, they must eliminate him with poison. The girl affirms she understood, and 2 years pass, and his father, Count Palladio, passes away. This was spread as heart failure, though it wasn't so much an overdose. They hear about another attack on the last night of the Blue Moon. The hero realizes everyone is more attentive to this secret organization. With the Count's death and no one caring, the silence ended. They asked the young master what he planned to do. He said the eldest young master would do something, and noticed several bags belonging to the protagonist. He ordered his squire to flee with him. He said they are heading south to Rodman. This is a small town south of Palladio. As they began to leave for Rodman, his brother kept a close watch. 3 days later, he returned for his brother's funeral, wondering why the boy perceived death differently from his father, until he discovered he had been stabbed in the heart, questioning who could have committed such a crime. He asked about the cause of death and the guards were startled by him. Evan mentioned something to the young master, speaking of someone who made Avalon disappear overnight, and he noticed that all the mansion staff were acting strangely. Not long after Alan went to Rod Mill inside the carriage, he asked the young master if they should go to a larger city. He said never, for Rod Mill was a place he had decided to stay. To save the great sins from disgrace and prevent the ruin of this world, that was the goal. Rod Mill has nothing to do with the main story, nor is Palace Village located there. A perfect place for a noble to live, where he would be at peace, saying that everything has a reason, and Evan knew he always said such things when he was bored. As he passed by in the carriage, someone watched him from a balcony. This person wondered whether to eliminate him or not. It didn't matter if he was alive. He planned to eliminate him with poison when his father passed away. He said he was quietly going away, so there was no reason to eliminate him. He thought he came to this village because things with Avalon were not going well. This man was greatly irritated by our protagonist's presence. He ordered his minion Amon to follow his carriage. Amon is the man who works for Leo and questions whether he should eliminate the boy. Leo found it strange, as Amon had never questioned his orders before, telling him to do the work he asked until he was surprised. Amon, his minion, slashed his chest. He said it was like playing war and betrayed Leo. In fact, he is Radan, a member of the Blue Moon who had just struck down young Master Leo. They hold the belief that they were taught by the Red Moon. As a Blue Moon, he is a man's sword, and it is natural for him to move according to his desires. Radan said if someone tries to harm the Great Moon, they must be eliminated, and he acts on his own. This is why he had been waiting to say this. Leo was enraged by the betrayal of his subordinates, and he declared that Avalon would vanish from the map, and he tells Leo that the Great Moon gave him a chance. Our hero wakes up in Rod Mill and feels the place is a blessing, waking up very happy, for the days are peaceful, and he wakes and eats whenever and whatever he desires. He is able to live like a true noble in this small town. Suddenly, Evan mentions that a letter has arrived for him. The letter tells of Leo Palacio's death and requests Alan to return home. His vacation was over, and he returned to Palacio Manor for his brother's funeral. He found his staff's reaction strange, and Evan asked when he became the leader of the Shadows. The crazy circumstances that occur in simulations led him to his current situation. He asked Evan why he had become a villain. He said he was the only one benefiting from the situation and had a perfect alibi. After all, Leo was eliminated after they left the large estate. Avalon was gone, and with Leo's death, nothing bothered him anymore. This meant he was the county's shadow leader, and he had ordered his brother's elimination. Our hero realized that no organization could kill an underworld big shot in an instant, and thinking about it, he knew there were organizations that hunted others and nobles. Evan commented that the information received was that the Blue Moon was not involved in these crimes. The Blue Moon leaves a mark instead of bodies. However, it was said that Avalon members were eliminated with a sword. Our hero knew that the Blue Moon hadn't appeared in the game. There was no way they could be so weak and involved in this. We wondered who it was, and we see the little girl with white hair and red eyes asking if they left any traces. The other Sins said nothing was left behind. Finally, the boy returned, saying that 486 Avalon soldiers had been slaughtered. Another Sin arrived, the one of obsession, and said he had also done his job perfectly. That's how Avalon, a massive organization that dominated the Asteria kingdom, turned to dust in 5 days. However, the Sin didn't think the cleanup had been perfect, as he found folders with nobles connected to Avalon. The Altea Duchy has a very deep connection with them. The Sin of Wrath said they should handle this stealthily, and all the other Sins obeyed her. The Sin girl asked if this information was reliable. She was answered that the matter was being handled separately from the Blue Moon, that all guilds acted the same, calling it the Sword of Hell, crafted by the master swordsman. She said this shouldn't reach a certain person's ears. The other Sins said his family threatened him, and that it was no problem. However, she said it wasn't an order, and they were swords. A sword cannot think for itself. The Blue Moon must only move with orders, and he knows everything. The girl who is the leader said they must never disappoint him. The Sin didn't understand why someone with impressive abilities like Yushas felt anxiety, fearing someone might discover them. All for the Great Moon was their motto, which they would follow at all costs. Meanwhile, our protagonist could no longer stand dealing with the overdue paperwork after the funeral. Even though he had made enemies, Leo's death was supposed to be 6 years from now. The death pattern had changed from the game, and all the paperwork fell to him, the heir. He remembered that when the count was there, he procrastinated a lot. The staff also worked hard because they were afraid our protagonist would eliminate them. Everyone worked hard because of rumors that he was the mastermind behind everything. However, he was like an ordinary employee who just wanted to do his job peacefully. He wished they would do things without him having to interfere. Evan approaches the young master and expresses surprise at the organization of a ball. This is a ball for the aristocracy of the southern part of the kingdom, an exchange among nobles. He was soon to become a count, and he should use this chance to make contacts. Forming contacts with nobles was crucial for a peaceful future. However, the ball was interrupted, and everyone expected this when he appeared. He knew they despised him for being low-class in fedora, unlike his esteemed great-grandfather, the current Palladio family. The Palladio family is full of scoundrels. However, he did not come unprepared and would show off the social skills he had secretly practiced. When he tries to speak of the wine's fragrance and appear elegant, he looks like a maniac. People mistake this for a villainous aura. One of the women feels pressured to send him wine and runs off. He did not expect such negative reactions and imagined that, at most, he would find shy people, but not so afraid of him. He says that a luxury horse, a tea, a medal, and a special wine are coming his way because of the fear people feel towards him. The Palladios became more famous than he thought, and because of the rumors about him, everyone seems to avoid him. His social efforts were in vain. However, a red-haired woman still felt interested in him. She approaches, asking if he could spare a moment for conversation. When he turns, he lets the person in, noticing Loria, daughter of Duke Altea. When he hears about the Altea family, one of the main families operating in the shadows, they are known as troublemakers of the north, imagining that there isn't a single normal person in that family. However, he doesn't remember her from the game and thinks she doesn't even appear. She is very direct and asks him to lend her his strength, as she will soon die. She comments that she was protected as the daughter of her father's mistress. However, the Duke's condition worsened. She says her older sisters are trying to eliminate her. Our hero doesn't remember her from the game. She should have already died and not appeared. However, with Lord Alan's power, she could be saved. However, our hero says he will refuse the request. She says that if he saves her, she will give him half of her fortune. Our hero leaves, unable to guarantee his own safety, much less hers. Even if he wanted to help, he is not the person the rumors claim him to be. He arrives tired at his castle and wishes her luck, hoping she finds an ally stronger than him. Someone in the shadows notices that Altia has approached the Great Moon, wondering if they should show her the gentle desire of the Red Moon. The Girl of Sin says no, and she is the only Altia not connected to Avalon. Therefore, she is the only one not part of Hayden's mission. This simplifies things, and the rest of the Altias will be eliminated. They proceed with the Red Moon's order, ensuring information is blocked so it doesn't reach her. To him, correction, that red-haired woman in a dress approaches our hero to speak with him. He finds it very strange that someone is trying to socialize with him and is astonished. He notices she's a character who also lives in the shadows, one he never saw in the game. There's no way anyone would approach him unless they were in trouble. He greets Sinonia, knowing her to be famous in the underworld. In the kingdom of Asteria, there are 3 great underworld houses: Altia in the north, Palatio in the east, and Zenonia, the street thugs of the west. Zenonia's eldest daughter is named Kalia, and she is pleased that the protagonist knows her. If Palatio and Altia command a gang, Zenonia is a crime syndicate. What he needs are connections to maintain a peaceful life, and for the sake of his easy life he doesn't want to get involved with her. Nevertheless, he compliments the woman, saying she looks very beautiful, and she says she would like to talk more with him. He says that too many people are watching them, and this conversation won't be possible. She says he's just like the rumors and states she's looking forward to their next meeting. The Sins notice that information is being contained, and a new problem is emerging. There's still a person in a tree, keeping an eye on the Great Moon. They sense they are being followed and must keep an eye out and eliminate this person. Then Alan and Evan go to a gorge for him to search for something, noticing it's midday yet very dark inside the gorge, saying that if it's empty again, he'll be very sad. After all, in the game it was easy to find a labyrinth inside. This is the Labyrinth of Whispers, where solving the riddles in all 8 rooms can reward one with a powerful artifact. Our hero sees the labyrinth's entrance in real life, and he has memorized everything within it. It's different from what he saw countless times online. Inside the gorge, it looks artificial, as if someone had built it. He says he's been there many times, which is why he knows the environment. Realizing he spoke foolishly, he corrects himself, saying he found out through external means. As soon as the doors open, several monsters begin to appear. Evan fears they might solve the riddle incorrectly, and the monsters will crush them. He wonders how the young master remains so calm, solving the riddles. They've worked together for 4 years, and he still doesn't understand the matter of saving orphans and everything else. He barely left the mansion, and already seems to know everything about this labyrinth. He manages to unlock the mechanisms, and Evan continues to suspect the young master. After all, everything he does somehow works out. When the door opens, our hero averts his gaze and feels like he's going to vomit, noticing it's finally over when they find the reward room, wanting to grab the ring and leave. Our hero takes the ring and says that taking any other object could cause problems. He obtains the Oath of Restriction, and they start their way back. He knew the way back because of the game, and it was very easy. The enormous stones in the gorge were golems, and Evan didn't know that. It was a new, unknown enemy, presenting the worst-case scenario for ensuring the young master's safety. Our hero started walking ahead, and told his knight that he could handle this one. Finding an escape route should come first before thinking about fighting. Our hero uses the Oath of Restriction he just gained from the talisman. After all, a second-level spell wouldn't work, but he manages to take down the golems. The fragment wants to grant the great miraculous wish to impose 2 restrictions on the monsters. At this point in the game, there would be a choice and a voice from the Oath of Restriction. He chooses the first option, and the voice speaks to him. He says he wants to use the hand signs of Babylon while casting the spell. The voice asks what he desires with the restriction. Our hero replies that he wants the power to distort the laws of the world a bit more. He is granted this power, and his second wish is to use the language of Babylon when utilizing the magic. Fearing greater power to defy the laws of the world, he makes the second hand sign. He wonders if he did something wrong using the skill icon. By choosing restrictions of signs and language, he can achieve the greatest magical attack power. Having replayed the game, He memorized the necessary combinations from the original game, and believes it will work. The voice assures him of this, and says it wants to grant power. The ring begins to be absorbed as if the restriction were being applied. When he returns to normal time, Evan tells him to use a second-level spell. It is then that Proto uses the lightning sphere, which seems weak even after using all his mana. Noting that this is his body's limit, he decides to test the strength he received from the restrictions. Then he unleashes the lightning sphere attack on the golems in the labyrinth. It being time to test what he received from the restrictions, our hero uses the refraction and repulsion sequence technique, generating indigo light that creates multiple lightning bolts and distorts light. Through this, he uses the diffraction line, making several hand gestures and unleashing a torrent of lightning. The spell slams into the monsters, annihilating them. Many of them shatter, and the lightning bolts pierce through their bodies. Evan asks if our hero is hiding his true strength, and he says he's never seen anything like it in 15 years as a mercenary. Our hero states that he is only in the second circle of magic. However, even he doesn't understand, as he wasn't this strong in the game. In the turn-based combat system, magic was cast each turn by using incantations and signs. This time, he used chain lightning magic with 4 incantations and hand signs in 5 turns. In summary, a powerful thunder spell, but with the restrictions, he has to use signs for all spells. That's why the magic became stronger and delivered a one-hit kill in the second circle, leaving our hero very surprised. Evan said that going through this labyrinth is more tiring than fighting. After finishing this infernal place, the Whisper Labyrinth has a different name in the game, and he only realizes it now. The location and tutorial were posted on the community website. Eventually, it started being called Palion's Labyrinth, and a man named Palion was the one who created this labyrinth. Our hero tells this to Evan. If you choose a hand sign that matches the spell's attribute, the power increases. If you choose the right enchantment, the properties are enhanced just like in the game's mechanics. However, unlike in the game where visuals remain the same and only the numbers increase, in this life he realizes that the spell changes form with each enchantment. He plans to observe these transformations through his mana control, and will test it as soon as he recovers it, and is relieved that everything worked out. From atop the trees, we see the little girl Sin observing him. She says that the era of the forgotten gods from outside are the scriptures of the Elenif Empire. She reads on a stone someone saying that his friend must have been left alone by the coward Palau, the one who stopped the monster invasion while being victorious against Al-Akalaka, who devoured the hearts of civilians. This was the brilliant Emperor Palau. She gained all this knowledge because she was born with the ancestral library after being summoned for a greater mission. She realized our hero was special because the Blood Queen followed him and he knew about Palau too. But she didn't expect the Great Moon to be a friend of this Emperor Palau. However, the phrase he whispered doesn't even exist in the ancestral library. That's why she wonders who he is and knows the Red Moon was right. She is ashamed of blindly following his orders. She notices another of the sins and asks if he came to gather information. He denies it and says the Dark One has been eliminated. They will have to report his manner of death, which was his neck being broken. In Zenonia County, the red-haired woman notes that it wasn't just a rumor, that besides being cold and calculating, his eyes were an abyss. She assumes that Zenonia County is strong and famous, just as our hero had supposed, being called famous even though it doesn't participate in social activities. She asks if this isn't fascinating for her father, the Count, snapping her fingers and activating a mind control spell on her father. No one knows she made her father a puppet so she could be the head of the house. Now many people are watching him as the protagonist revealed her secret. A servant calls her to see a peculiar scene in her room. When the girl goes to see, someone has been eliminated. Judging by the seal not being activated, no secrets were revealed. The culprit brought this to her room on purpose, discovering the truth. She notes that the culprit saw her greatest weakness the moment they met. At Count Altia's estate, we see the little girl saying he isn't a normal person, referring to the protagonist, the kind of person who shouldn't be an enemy, as he's a big shot in the underworld and has the same eyes as her father. He was her last hope, but he wouldn't accept a deal that would result in losses, because everything she possessed was taken by her siblings. The eldest son is Timalian, the eldest daughter Marianne, the second daughter Perini, and the second son Keg, leaving nothing for her. She survived until now by relying on her father's pity, and now she doesn't know what to do. They inform the little girl that the young lady has returned. Perini and Keeg took their own lives. Those who eliminated her family took their own lives. It's something that doesn't make sense to her. She asks how Timalian and Marianne are. It is also said that both have died, and she is in shock, understanding nothing. One of the sins successfully eliminated the targets and escaped unseen. At that moment, our hero says that good things can happen, because the one truly in control of the Count's mansion is the one who hid their claws and waited for the right moment. Now he understands what he meant at that time, when they met, and with that, she became the sole successor of her family. After all her siblings lost their lives, she wonders if she made some kind of pact with an evil being for this to happen, wondering what happens to those who betrayed him, and there are many possibilities. Therefore she will walk the path she chose to avoid misfortune. 2 months later, our hero arrives with an order from the Duke of Altea, bringing him a bottle of Cernan's wine as a gift. He realizes that young Loria was the one who sent it, not the Duke, which confuses our protagonist. The servant, who came at her command, said that the Duke provided and ordered it to be delivered to him. This means the youngest has become the Duke, and our hero is utterly surprised. The girl is writing several letters and notes that the 2 months passed in the blink of an eye. After her father's funeral, who passed away from illness, she became the Duchess after the ceremony. Before she couldn't enter the office, and now she commands everything. Her siblings' deaths happened so suddenly that she wasn't suspected of the crimes. After all, she had an alibi, and her secret organization was eliminated by her siblings when she returned to the mansion. She had no power at all, and realized this was very surprising, as they used this situation to gain an advantage. He refused in a way that seemed indifferent and carried out a cleanup behind the scenes. She wonders how far that man foresaw the future. She didn't tell him about her father's funeral so as not to annoy our hero. She thinks he must have helped, as he needed an Altea for some part of his secret plan. Although she gathered all of Altea's subordinate organizations, it's not enough to match his power, which makes her suspect that the palaces need something from her in her county, an important figure from the underworld who rose solely through his businesses. If there's something he lacks, it's the ability to manipulate the political landscape from the shadows, which makes her think he needs the Altea name in his board game, so she will focus on what she needs to do, as this underworld big shot will soon contact her. That's why she tried to please him with that very expensive wine. Our hero notes that she escaped the clutches of death and became the Duchess. A few months later, and 5 years after his journey began, Evan asks if he should call the young Master Count now. He says the ceremony hasn't happened, but he can call him that, since a year has passed. Our hero didn't even want to become a count, but he will make the most of this situation now that he's in it. He received a letter from Yusha, and asks if Evan has any information about who eliminated Leo. A guild is investigating this, and Evan has no answers for now. He asks what our hero's objective is, imagining it's not revenge. Our hero is preparing for unexpected events, as everything is going quite differently from how it was in the game. Evan says he spoke exactly like a count just now. She reads the letter from the cute little girl, which talks about hobbies and professional level ventriloquism. It says that Silrung loves to play with friends, mentions that Rini loves to read while doing other things, and states that Rydan has a hobby involving gardening. And this routine of exchanging news every month has become a pattern that warms our protagonist's heart, stopping to think the 5 sins are with. He asks their age. Evan says they should be ready to enter society at their current age. The 5 great sins sign the letter, and thank our hero for his care. Our hero says he no longer has a reason to keep them confined, as they are grown and can decide their own future. He knows he cared for them enough so they wouldn't become the 5 sins, and he believes they are well and healthy. Each boss fight had an outline of its scenario revealed by the narration. Yusha had the talent of belief, Deus had the talent of the sword, Rhine had the talent for studying, Sirang had the talent for fighting, Rydan had the talent of the apostle. If they use their talents correctly, they will live much better than before. Meanwhile, he can prepare a gift for the children. He finishes the gift and hopes to get something in return when they are older, waiting for the children to read their letters and venture into the world. Yusha tells the sins that a letter has arrived for each of them with new orders. They all read it excitedly. New orders arrive and he sends one to each of them. The villains are surprised and some are even excited. Altea mentions that they should read them before getting ahead of themselves. They obtain permission to read the orders, even though they come from above. Noticing that the moon sent a letter to each person means that everyone must attend. However, it seems to be just a normal conversation without any actual orders. Because of this, the cat-eared girl decides to read the letter. All the villains read together. The girl must go to Colony, while Deus must go to Caliban, the nation of knights. Radam must go to Raxus, the city of entertainment, and the other girl to Larthenia, the city of labyrinths. Altea must go to the city of the Holy Kingdom, Rosario. Everyone received orders explaining what to do, and Deus must become a knight through the master's sponsorship. He also delivered the location of gifts for his pet villains. Altia reminds them that they must not mention the name Blue Moon until the master's order says otherwise. Each of the villains heads to the locations defined by the letter. Altia also noticed that he always disguised orders with normal conversations in his letters, showing the first order after the thank you letter, informing the target of the mission, and telling them to report back after completion. It was in this letter that he entrusted the Blue Moon to Altia, and everyone was handpicked. All of this was to prevent information from leaking, and everyone must interpret the disguised orders and carry them out. Deus thinks it would be better if they used a magic communicator and left another one with the Blue Moon. Altia commands them not to forget to fulfill everything he orders. Deus feels her unwavering trust and says he will never forget it. 3 months later, the protagonist analyzes several books looking for something about magic and phrases. He asks how the investigation process is going after Leo's passing. The Information Guild still hasn't found anything, and because of the 5 great sins, the butterfly effect changed everything. Even Loria, who should have passed away, became the Duchess of Altia, expanding power and influence through the underworld. He orders Evan to stop the investigation into Leo's death with the guild. He thinks ignorance will be a blessing on this occasion. In the game, almost nothing escaped the intelligence network of the Information Guild. He decides not to continue the search to avoid getting into trouble, and this precaution might prevent his death. Secret organizations like this won't bother the protagonist if he avoids them. There is no reason for them to attack him, and he tells Evan that at this rate it makes no sense to continue the searches. His assistant warns him that Deus became a knight in Caliban. Our hero, however, doesn't give a damn about it. More than 3 months later, Evan says that Deus created a knight order. Our hero finds it strange because he was supposed to be only at the expert level. He should be far from being a master knight. Yet he will be the 15th youngest Master Knight in less than 10 years. He will be part of the Swords of Caliban, and they must be celebrating in the city. 6 months pass, thus concluding 1 year since the Sins left the orphanage and the time he became a count. The news that Deus became a Sword of Caliban arrived from Evan. He became the 15th Master Knight in history. Our protagonist says that only Sword Masters can become Master Knights. A Sword Master in Psychedelia is a superhuman who has gone beyond the Aura Blade, unlocking a unique derivation skill. Evan says that he hasn't created his derivation yet, but he is about to become a sword master. Even so, the nation gave him the title of Master Knight. He won a duel against the 4th sword, and Caliban lost a knight to the northern barbarians. Obtaining mana and mastery usually takes 15 years, and the derivation takes a few more decades. Reinhardt, the first sword of Caliban, was 32 years old when he became the youngest knight. In the game, there was a mission where Reinhardt joined the protagonist's team. He was very strong, and even being talented, it took him 20 years to become a Sword of Caliban. And now, a child with no knowledge of swords has become a Master Knight. He has already surpassed Reinhardt, but he is just waiting for his derivation to emerge. Perhaps our protagonist won't be able to make use of him, since he only receives letters from Yusha. After going to the Holy Kingdom, her letters contain news about the Sins, and they kept in touch. He feels sad for not having thanked them for the gift, and for them not having seen the protagonist in person. The protagonist goes back to the beginning, and is happy that the 5 great sins didn't destroy the kingdom upon awakening. He is happy, as long as his offspring are doing well. In Kirtham, the capital of Caliban, in the central area, we see the residence of the high-ranking noble, being the grand mansion where the famous Knights of the Solar Eclipse reside. There, Dios Macaulay observes everything from above, being a captain of the Knights of the Solar Eclipse and the youngest Master Knight. His sister greets him, and he is very happy to see her alive. Thinking about the past makes him feel embarrassed, even though a whole year has passed, when he lost everything to the Black Plagues, and all that remained was uncontrollable rage. The fact that the Great Moon had saved him was not a good enough reason to swear his loyalty to him, but because he promised he could take revenge on the demons, he followed his orders. Working as part of the Blue Moon brought very dangerous situations in training, and he didn't care about his own well-being. For a few years he carried out missions that would be fundamental to going against the Black Plagues, and right after, he received a direct order that spoke of a gift in a hotel. He didn't want any gifts until he opened the door and saw what awaited him. The gift the Great Moon referred to in the letter was the family he thought he had lost. This was something more precious than his own life. The sister he thought had passed away is alive. He starts to cry upon seeing Sylvie and becomes very happy. After the things that happened, they separated. In the darkness, she had to wait her turn for a long time. When her turn came, she was able to escape with the light and survive. A few years later, she was almost sold to a slave merchant. A mercenary named Evan saved her. After that, She received treatment from her benefactor, who continued to send her medicine to keep her safe, and the one signing the letters was Alan Palacio, our hero. Sylvie was very grateful for everything he had done. The knight is impressed that he protected his sister using the name Palacio. He never spoke about his family, and only Julia knew he had been caught by the Black Lamb. Noting that our hero, the Blue Moon, knows everything, all his doubts came together like a puzzle and disappeared. He couldn't understand Yusha's anxiety, yet he was the only fool. Good things were happening, and he thought about what had been said to him. Alan Palacio knew everything and even warned that child about the future. His sword dared to act on its own, but he decided to be generous and merciful. His head had been full of hateful thoughts against the Black Lamb, and he ended up being presented with an invaluable gift, his sister alive. And Yusha said he would realize why he followed that man, noting that she wasn't just a fanatic for Alan Palacio, nor was she blindly trusting him. Because of this, the knight feels he must repay everything to him. His mission is to become the pinnacle of caliber, a master knight, and create a personal order of knights with the best swordsmen. Time passes, and the moment arrives when he creates this order of knights. This expedition will serve as the initial spearhead for the solar eclipse. No matter what difficulties arise, he would be waiting for the day he could satisfactorily repay him. He commanded everyone to prove themselves before the moon. The Knights of the lunar eclipse went on an expedition to fight against the barbarians. All his children were grown and flying around, which made Alan happy. After returning from the labyrinth, he kept searching for a phrase. The report was ready, and refraction was something that strengthened the imperfection of a complete spell, increasing its contact area. Refraction changes the form, affecting the projectile's transition. Indigo light reinforces parallel magic like an electrical spell. The diffraction line ensures penetration, resulting in a critical hit. With his mana, he could only use one spell per day, which made it take a long time for him to discover refraction. Due to this world's predefined nature, the mother's signs and the language of Babylon had been forgotten, leaving him with no information on the subject. Ultimately, he had to research it himself, uncovering things even as he learned protective magic. It was time to see the results of 2 months of research. He would eliminate the manosphere's focal point and create an imbalance to generate lightning. A weak and useless spell is fixation. He then uses compression and speaks the phrases to summon. Finally, he uses collapse, and it begins to serve a specific purpose. The blossoming and the lightning become incredibly potent. He notes that the order of the words spoken matters a lot, and when he uses collapse first, the magic becomes stronger. When they witness an originating spell, the red-haired woman is in shock. Our hero asks why Kalia is there. They know that being able to use an originating spell makes one at least a 7th circle mage. Our hero didn't even know he was in the 7th or 8th circle, and that he had cast an originating spell. In Count Palladio's reception room, Kalia had 2 reasons for being there. One was to confirm the Count's intentions, which was a determining factor in causing damage to Zenonia. The other was to ascertain the level of the organization protecting him, which had allowed him to control the Palladio mansion. However, what she ended up discovering was that he was a very powerful and arrogant mage. She had never seen Viank, the 5th circle mage banished from the magic tower due to fear of his human experiments. This man could exterminate an entire division of soldiers with ease, and was always very arrogant in his work, and now she felt fear coming from him, which is something very bizarre, wondering if it was an originating spell that Alan Palladio had cast. Our hero appears, asking what she wants in his county, saying immediately that she had waited a long time to meet him. Alan interrupts, clarifying that it was not an originating spell, and that if his abilities were to be counted, he was only in the 2nd circle, and that the mage beside her must have noticed the absence of effect. The frightened mage, when he commanded them to be uneasy, said he had seen everything incorrectly. The hero was relieved that the misunderstanding was resolved, and they got to the point of the conversation. Kalia realized she should visit him after concluding her business nearby. He says he has work to do and cannot delay, subtly telling her to leave. She stands and thanks him, saying she is already leaving. He said that if she needed someone to talk to, he recommended Duchess Altia, saying they would get along well. She thanks him for the visit and leaves. Evan asks why Zenonia, the ruined family from the east, would come there. Our hero pretends not to know, but deep down he knows it will be problematic, and if the false rumor about him using primordial magic spreads, strong opponents will want to fight him. There's no way she can visit Altia while they're competing for the underworld, and he tells them not to show up there. Valkian wonders if it was truly primordial magic, and the reason for her reaction, given that she's denying it. Primordial magic uses its own laws, but the immutable absolute principles are still present. However, only mages at the pinnacle are capable of doing so. He used his eye to observe and analyze Alan Palacio's magic. He was breaking the absolute principles. After all, he fixed the thunder, molded it, and collapsed the law. Even doing that, the magic was materialized, performing an impossible miracle, and what came next was worse. Using the essence of the Golden Mane tribe, which is the item's description, the Lord allowed her to know the location of the hidden treasures he planned to use as an emergency fund. This is a nation of fighters where power grants you the entire world. The desert nation of Colony is where another one of the sins resides. Undoubtedly, a great outer god was our protagonist. The mage decides to stop and think for a moment, as Alan's existence could be very dangerous. He delved into ancient knowledge and received praise for his research on the magic of the unknown era. Therefore, he tells Zenonia not to oppose Count Palladio, because he is very strong. Thus, he decides not to uncover his intentions after what he said about talking to Duchess Altia, imagining she is a piece on Alan's chessboard. 5 months later, about 2 years after the children left the orphanage, he asks if there is any new information about them. However, Evan says that Zenonia County and Altia Duchy have allied. The two greatest rivalries of the underworld have united, which leaves him in shock. He sent the sins down another path, and now he'll have to deal with an alliance of two twins. The kingdom of Asteria will be set ablaze. He didn't imagine she would take what he had said in their conversation seriously, imagining it will be a temporary alliance after what he told the two of them. However, he will prepare for a possible war or greater problems. He will apologize to Callie and writes a letter at this moment. He hopes the child never discovers the lie, and he relies on Evo. He will send her through a mercenary guild. Our hero would like to know where Raiden and his Rang are, as Yutra didn't provide details of their destinations. He hopes none of them have been eliminated somewhere, and if she finds the gift mentioned in the letter, she will become the pinnacle of all fighters in Baba Yaga. Finally, the cat-eared girl's trial concludes. She thanks the Great Moon for the gift of the gauntlet she received. She thought the essence of the Golden Mane tribe was just a legend, and she discovers the essence of the Golden Mane tribe, which is the race of wolves, descendants of the kings of all beasts. The essence of the Golden Mane tribe is the legendary item that has been with her family for generations, granting strength and authority, and she obtained the essence, passing through all trials and acquiring the truth that the Great Moon is her benefactor, who saved her from elimination when she was a test subject. It gave her the power to avenge her parents, who were eliminated by the Black Dragon. That's why she intends to return the favor to our protagonist, certain that he doesn't want her to become a mediocre gladiator. From now on, she will become the strongest gladiator and restore the Golden Mane tribe. Furthermore, she will eliminate the Black Dragon, all for the Great Moon. She decides to begin. The Great Beast King of the Golden Mane tribe will reappear after hundreds of years. It is said that the Information Guild has obtained news about the children. Lord Rung has been performing well in the colony, earning the nickname Golden Lightning. Our hero is happy to know he is well through Eva. He asked about Raiden, as he hasn't heard from him since he was learning to work on rifts. Our hero and Eva still don't know what is true about Raiden and what is false information. Our hero tells Eva that he must be busy finding out if the information about Raiden is true or not. After all, he must prepare, as it takes a month to reach the magic tower. Eva is quite used to all of this now, the pressure of the job. Still, only 1 month. It's strange, as it should only take a week to reach the green magic tower. It is then that our hero says they are going to the blue magic tower, which is further from Labyrinth City. Eva begins to prepare and leaves the room. Our hero is exhausted, just thinking about spending a month inside a carriage. The item that can support his small and precious mana reservoir is in this city. Labyrinth City brings back memories for our protagonist. Back in the game, he spent a lot of time farming there. The labyrinth located in the city center is the classic map for leveling up in the RPG game. The player receives higher quality items by increasing their level and going deeper. However, although countless players have visited, none have reached the end of the labyrinth. He used a cheat to reach the 150th floor, and there was still more. Just like in the game Alec, artifacts are constantly found there. Because of this, the profession of magic appraiser became popular, guaranteeing a rich life. Ryan said she will take the appraiser exam soon and should pass with ease. Perhaps he gave Ryan too small a gift compared to the others. He should send separate support for her, as the gift was not enough. In the labyrinth city called Lartania, governed by no one, it is a city of explorers and mercenaries. Passing by countless shops on the corner of the southern area, one can find a secret appraisal shop called MIRD. The shop gained fame through its unique services, serving noble A-rank explorers. Among them was the Lord of Lartania, who received a device that ignites flames with mana, a relic that can receive an engraving. The engraving's ability is that a little mana will keep the flame lit for at least an hour. We then see that the one wearing the mask and selling the item was Hyde. She said that another item can also receive an engraving, and the reason why this shop located on the corner is so famous is because the engraving is a gift from the Great Moon. When Hyde was first told to become an appraiser, she didn't understand. Her true identity is that of a friend of Palin from the era of the Forgotten Outer Gods. She understood that all of this was to eliminate the plagues, but she didn't associate this order with the objective. She thought becoming an appraiser had nothing to do with eliminating monstrous plagues. The moment she saw his gift, she understood what it meant to become an appraiser. The Eye of the Stalker quickly identifies mana limit items to aid in appraisal. Being a bit different from what she knew, its essence didn't even exist in the library. After the seals were broken, the engraving was unlocked. To gain strength to fight against monsters, she had to awaken this item, acquiring a skill and a means to offer sacrifices. She had over 252 sacrifices to make until the item was fully awakened. In exchange for increasing the relic's stats, it absorbs something from her, essentially changing the eye. This relic only reacts with other specific high-level relics. Accurately appraising all relics and selecting high-level sacrifices to mark with engravings is something only she can do to awaken this eye, as she was born with the Library of Eternity. And all of this is to kill the Black Wolf that eliminated her family. And everything goes according to the will of the Great Moon. 3 weeks later, in the Blue Magic Tower, the Tower Master is absent. We see the Vice Master of the Blue Magic Tower, Fenya Kryzina. She says she was busy, and that our hero needed to quickly state what he had to resolve there. Our hero remembers her face is familiar, and that he's seen her in the main story. In the game, she was a genius who appeared occasionally, reaching the 8th circle at the age of 20 and becoming the Tower Master. The Magic Tower is not only strong, but monopolizes the production of certain goods, making its status equal to that of nobles. Although the authority of the Vice Master of the Tower transcended human limits, it must be very high. He claims to be the Palace Count and came to discuss a matter concerning the Time Gate. He says he can eliminate the Time Gate, which is a rift connecting to a mysterious subspace that appears in locations where magic is heavily used, creating anomalies that cause significant damage. She says our hero should leave because he has weak talent, and he needs a better answer than that. She says eliminating the Time Gate and claiming the treasure is not something he is capable of doing, saying that several people come to her every day to discuss this matter, but he says if she takes him to the Time Gate, he will prove it's true. The Vice Master understands that he wants something huge to change public opinion, as people are discovering he became a count by the luck of his brother's deaths. However, it doesn't mean he can bring such matters to the tower and cause a commotion. Our hero didn't like that these rumors were spreading so fast, and she might seem like a workaholic, but she is informed about news from the outside world. She is very frightening and begins to emanate a bizarre energy in front of the protagonist. Evan says they will be split in half if they try to mess with her. Our hero begins to walk towards her, passing through her aura, saying that if they don't eliminate the gate, he will hand over all his property to the Magic Tower. He says they can make an oath, as it's not a terrible offer for a bit of her time. She shows him where the Time Gate is, saying that all his wealth will be hers if he fails the mission. She was wondering if he was the county's mastermind or just a competent man who got lucky. After listening for a while, she is convinced that he is closer to being a lucky incompetent. Contrary to the inhuman atmosphere around him, he has a small mana reservoir and a slightly above-average ability to detect energy. She finds him pathetic, and believes there's no need to close the gate, as it will naturally disappear in 3 months after spitting out the relic. And the research will conclude, however, the Time Gate and the Blue Magic Tower continue to cause commotion for over 2 years. If he can't do anything, she orders our hero to leave the room. She asks if he will use his hand as a medium instead of a staff, a primitive method only seen in fairy tales, telling him to stop imitating hand signs and leave. Suddenly, everything stops moving, and she too becomes motionless, noticing an eye opening and leaving her completely frozen. The observing eye instinctively activates. Something unknown is seen through its essence. She simply sees that this is something that should not happen, like a poison chalice destined for ruin. This giant hand begins to approach and uses absolute command, making the Vice Mage understand the order. The gate is then finally closed, a task our protagonist finds easy, as he possesses special items and methods. He picks up the relic share and spat out, "I need to use it a few more times," so he cast a spell of conviction, noticing that she fell under the spell and is completely in shock, saying she won't tell anyone anything. She starts screaming that she will remain in absolute silence and won't tell anything, saying she will honestly keep the secret. Our hero doesn't understand why she is acting like this out of nowhere, and he and Evan leave. In shock, the girl brings a mana recovery potion she made herself for our hero. He is surprised by the handmade mana potion from the Vice Tower Master. It is of the highest grade, and she asks if he liked it. He notices that she is very grateful for him closing the gate because of his spell, saying she will keep what the Count requested of her in absolute silence, through the mana oath, and he asks why she is like this, as she must have misunderstood something. She takes the mana oath to prove she will fulfill her promise well. Our hero notices that she shows no signs of clarifying the misunderstanding, and so in the magic tower, he acquired the relic he wanted, 5 bottles of potion and an oath. Afterward he left with his knight Evan. Seeing that it was difficult to obtain, the item he got seems more primitive than he expected. He said it was something he absolutely needed. The seal of the profane was good to acquire safely, and the gem embedded in the bracelet can absorb and store mana from the atmosphere. He notices it is working well. The storage capacity is not enormous, but it is sufficient for his reservoir. The objective is to apply magical research in self-preservation, not fighting, by having a body that requires less mana than a support item. He wonders what Phinia misunderstood about this situation, about the closing of the portal. Her sudden politeness with the two of them was too strange. He tells Phinia that he is of the second circle of magic, and she is happy about it, a reaction similar to Kalia's last time. She still seemed uncomfortable but agreed with him. It doesn't matter, as he won't see any of them again, and he thinks that's fine. He notices that everything is very peaceful, and we see a scene with Duchess Altia, where she says it's been a long time since she last met Lady Zenonia. As she was ordered by our protagonist, she is happy to see the girl again. It is convenient that they don't need to discuss class or authority between them in this conversation. She remembers Count Palacio's advice to visit Duchess Altia. By following his advice, she quickly understood his true intention behind their meeting. As they talked, both realized they were inferior to Palacio. Regardless of the reason, it was an alliance built under Count Alan's command. As a power struggle is meaningless below the absolute number 1, Zenonia and Altia became more comfortable allies. She says she visited him because the Count sent a letter using the day she visited him as an excuse. Reading the letter, she sees it's a conversation about noble families. It seemed like a normal apology letter, however, it had some hidden scheme within it. That's why Zenonia wanted to discuss this with Altia. He used the phrase that there weren't many nobles who pleased him. Baron Kenya belongs to the noble faction, and Marquis Moranti is one of the key figures of the royal faction. Viscount Belanda belongs to the royal faction. Duke Faldiola, key figure of the faction among the nobles he was speaking with at the ball. In short, he dislikes both the noble and royal factions, so they consider eliminating all of them and must draw a conclusion based on common sense. Therefore they believe Alan wants to expel the existing nobles from the factions. That's why Altia needed fame, and he made her a duchess. If the hegemon of the West is with him, then let's discuss the plan. And meanwhile, in the Blue Magic Tower, the Count says someone resembles the gate. The puzzle pieces were being created randomly, running wild and fitting together. Mosroy states he wants to go home soon and can't stand traveling anymore. It's almost time for Udia's letter to arrive for him to discover her whereabouts. We see the girl with her white hair and clothes of a religious figure. Pena's master returns and warns his disciple. He no longer feels the gate of time. He is Micardo, the master of the Silane Magic Tower, asking what happened, and she is very strange, saying she finished the work the Lord entrusted to her. He notices that something serious happened and she is getting angry with him as usual. Since Pena became vice master of the tower so young due to her talent, arrogance and recklessness became apparent. She makes several novices cry and has terrible behavior. He had no intention of correcting her personality because she was genuine when it came to magic. The moment she reaches the 7th circle, she will realize how useless achievements are and naturally become modest. However, this situation is very strange. He notices that the business trip to the north was very long and asks what she did during his absence. The Count closed the gate of time. He asks what exactly she did regarding the oath. She cannot say in detail, but she briefly recounts the oath she made with the man. What made Pena modest was an incomprehensible and original magic. She is so scared that she won't even try to pull away from his hand, which is caressing her. Count Palacio of the Asteria Kingdom was the man who fixed Pena's arrogance. 1 month after returning from the Blue Magic Tower, our hero trains. After obtaining the Mark of the Corrupted, he began serious research on phrases. He learned about rules regarding the use of phrases in magic. It might have a relation to how and where he defines them, but he isn't sure yet. Evan tells the Count that his magic is getting stronger and stronger as he witnesses it. Second circle magic never appeared before. It seems to be on a different level compared to what it was months ago. Our hero thinks that using a medium gravity spell cannot create a crater like that one did. Gravity is a second circle magic, which even at maximum power is not enough to crush something to its end. He thought he was getting stronger, but now he thinks it's an illusion. If there's a reason for his power to have increased so remarkably, it wouldn't be due to proficiency or phrases. An increase in magical proficiency means an increase in precision and execution. Phrases are closer to trigger words that alter attributes. He spent months studying the arrangement of phrases for gravity and has been using almost the same ones interchangeably. In the end, he discovered that power only increases gradually as he adjusts the ideal arrangement, with no reason for his magic's firepower to increase. Perhaps he's just in better condition now. He hands over Whittia's letter, which just arrived, and our hero has already used all 3 of his daily magic uses. A reason for his magic suddenly getting stronger might be a reward for a curse. A curse, an Eastern ritual where the caster sacrifices themselves to cast a curse on another or just on themselves. When struck, the target suffers a loss but gains a compensatory reward. There's no one from the East around him, so it can't be that. Perhaps it's receiving faith, an account from a small kingdom that the underworld ignored wouldn't receive so much faith and golden blessing. Sometimes he just has to forget about it and go on with his life, hoping nothing bad happens. The Holy Kingdom of Rosary Capital, called Rionel, is the pure white city where people worship the goddess of moon and peace, Sharonia. In the Eastern prayer house, we see the Sin Girl greeting Lord Locke, who notices she is a nun with a lower rank than a paladin, and isn't even wearing the sash of holy grace. However, he shows respect for Altia, saying they managed to save 8 children and 25 lives from a small village located in the east-west, thanks to her, and she says he was the one who performed the good deeds, saying that he was the one who taught her, an ignorant man, which is why he will always be grateful to her. For 20 years he lived in despair because he couldn't feel divine power and was about to give up, until he met Altia, who told him that if it was something he desired so much, he should have faith in the moon. Once he understood, what did it mean to make a life change? In his desperation, he was willing to do anything and he tried. He prayed to the moon for a few days as Altia had said. Ridiculously, he learned how to wield divine power and succumbed to a momentary temptation. He placed his faith in the moon and not in the goddess Chironia. He feared he might have entered the path of heresy. However, all power borrowed from the gods was the same. Even the artifacts granted in the goddess's name shone in his hands, proving the divine power he had acquired. He questioned Altia about why she asked him to pray to the moon. She said that faith came from an invisible belief and took a long time to manifest. It was always easier to get what one needed from what truly existed. The moon would always be with him. He said it was true, as the goddess was also the moon itself, being the way for doubtful humans to believe in her with absolute certainty. He thanked the sister from the bottom of his heart after acquiring proof that his faith was real. If he wanted to express his gratitude, they could pray together. He liked Altia's idea and said he could do it as many times as needed. She said he arrived just in time for prayer and they gathered. They went inside the church and she began the prayer to the moon. This was Yusha Bludia, a sister from the Holy Kingdom of Rosary, the girl of sin, now a nun. Our hero realizes there's nothing special in today's letter. It means everyone is living a good life, which is great. However, he is sad because no one is sending letters except Yusha. He's just some lord they've never seen before, so they don't care much. He has already achieved his goal of guiding them onto the right path so they don't destroy the world, so there's no reason for him to be sad. He should feel at peace. Yusha must be busy, but she still writes letters regularly. She raised 5 children, but only the eldest recognizes her hard work. Irvin asks if he's busy, as he received information about children from the Information Guild, about Raiden, who was our hero's last inquiry. After all, he has become a pirate by now. Our hero starts to imagine this and finds it very strange. First, the rumors of Sarong and Deus. Sarong achieved a 32-win streak, which is what's needed to become the Baba Yaga. The fighter with the longest streak is the Lion King, with a 41-win streak. The Lion King was an overpowered character who momentarily joined the player's party. The colony relies on many powerful individuals to project its military strength, and she is about to surpass the colony's top ranks. As for Deus, the order executed one of the 8 barbarian chiefs, Kurga, from the snowfield, the leader of those who metamorphose into monsters through rituals. Our hero knows them well, as he fought against them and eliminated the god Uterus back in the game. He's happy not to have to see them, as Uterus only appears after the 5 sins gather. That means he won't have to worry about Deus, as he's being handled, on the same level as Reinhardt, the first sword is Deus. As for Reyna, she became an appraiser, printing black engravings that enhance an artifact's abilities. So our hero asks if Hayden really became a pirate, as that's the main point of the conversation. Evan talks about the 7 archipelagos located off the coast of Ratches, where the great pirates reside. He became the captain of the first archipelago, which is the largest of them all. An internet post he laughed at became reality. Our hero didn't send him to Ratches for this exact reason. Hayden is good at finding enemies, being a rare relative of the sea god, and free to move in the water. There are also many precious relics in the oceans, and he became a treasure hunter with a promising future. A great pirate captain means he is the lord of the island and has become a very important figure now. Our hero wonders how Raidan eliminated the captain of the first archipelago. All captains are superhuman and have never lost a naval battle to anyone. Our hero considers the possibility that he recovered the true jewels among the relics of the ancient era. He also wanted to get a good relic and had to spend many hours in many games, so he equipped himself to obtain the captain's position. He knows the world doesn't always work in his favor. However, this news was quite bitter. Count begins to feel unwell, and we see something happening in the heart of the Corxia Principality. This is the gigantic maritime city of Ratches. Beyond the city's coast lie the 7 pirate havens, and the largest of them all is the first archipelago. The great pirate Alcrade, the Red Slayer, was the former captain of this place. He received protection from the Celestial King through wealth, and this is the person who defeated him, becoming the new captain of the first archipelago. It is the sin our hero created. He truly wonders what the Great Moon is at this moment. He had never been so interested, nor had he thought deeply about it. At first he was just a guy he was grateful to. He was destined to die as a slave, and thanks to him, he met Yutei and awakened his ability. Honestly, it seemed more like he was following Yutei's orders while working as the Blue Moon, until he received a direct order from the Great Moon, which he didn't quite understand at first. He wondered why he had to become a treasure hunter and felt repulsed by it. He tried to start his revenge as quickly as possible, as the black creatures destroyed his clan, which lived peacefully on an island no one even knew existed. On the continent where the cursed ones escaped, hunters eliminated his exhausted parents and sold him, turning him into a slave. He didn't think becoming a hunter had anything to do with his promised revenge. He thought he would have to make it seem like he was following an order. At least, he noticed the ship was celebrating, and was extremely noisy. They said that only the chosen great pirate could receive the Celestial King's protection through wealth. The chosen captains of the 7 archipelagos greeted each other. Then he found the bastards who eliminated his parents beginning to plan his revenge. Revenge through a sacred ritual that uses body parts of the sea god's relatives. Someone like that could receive the power granted by the sea god Cleed, and each captain of the 7 archipelagos wielded this power. It was these hunters who split his parents' bodies into 7 pieces. The man wonders how the Sins knew this. He had never spoken about it before, and it was almost as if the Great Moon had arranged the opportunity for revenge. He cannot execute his revenge immediately. After all, they are superhumans who wield the power of the sea god. If all of this was intentional, then there is a reason why the gift he received was this necklace. The Great Moon must have arranged everything according to its plan, orchestrating the foundation and structure of his revenge. On the island, we see the man quickly entering the water with his necklace, which begins to manifest magic. The Great Moon's gift was Amrita's goggles. This allows him to locate relics in the deep sea very easily, and the specific relics he found were able to compensate for his lack of strength. It was foolish of him to doubt, but now he is grateful. After all, the Great Moon fulfilled its promise to Radan the pirate. It not only pushed the target of his revenge in front of him, but also granted him the power to execute it. Now he perfectly understands what the Great Moon meant in its letter. Its true intention is for him to carry out his revenge and take control of the 7 archipelagos. The white-haired girl tells him that all of this is for the Great Moon. A phrase that once stirred nothing in him had now become something important in his heart. With a light of confidence, it is all for the Great Moon. 3 months later, as the oppressive heat receded, winter arrived. A season returned, bringing with it the grand biennial social gathering of Asteria. He was also forced to participate. It is mandatory every 4 years. As scheduled, the carriages of the crude and adorned families join together. They join forces to avoid trouble with bandits, which is a strange custom. What he learned that night was that their finances were in tatters. The reason was that the position he obtained was by coincidence, and that the nobles posed a greater problem than bandits. He understood this way of thinking due to the infamous authority of the palace, which stemmed from its dominion over the vast eastern underworld, built upon the accumulated wealth of that very underworld. Now he was satisfied with how things were progressing and had abandoned the underworld business, earning enough to live from other ventures anyway. Thus, the current Eastern underworld was filled with small fry trying to take advantage of the vacant position. The rumor that he became a count merely by luck had become a foregone conclusion. He already knew he had been demoted to a lucky child instead of being the brains of the county. Now they even thought he had no money and kept mocking him, which was very annoying. Understanding that they were victims of the palace, mere errand boys for their families, now they were taking out the humiliation they had suffered on the boy. However, it was not he who had humiliated the two families, as he was not the count. Noticing that he was facing haters just like those on the internet, he considered it best to ignore them. Evan brought corn for the protagonist to eat, while the nobles kept bothering them. The north is an endless land of bitter cold teeming with barbarians, a place where only a cursed, lifeless gray light exists. We see a man crawling, cursing the bastards of Caliber. This is the Great Klecken, one of the 8 barbarian chiefs. They adore battles, and death in combat is the greatest honor imaginable. However, they were deceived by a knight from Caliber, who claimed he wanted to have a grand duel. When they had this duel, he ended up losing his arm. He faces a shameful fate, unable to even close his eyes before the gates of death. He cries out for his brother to call upon him in his great, adored name, until he calls the name Alturas, the great creature our protagonist fears. When he cries out for the great god Alturas, he begins to rise, daring to call his honored name in this complicated situation. The great god Alturas grants the wish of the man on the brink of death. The uncomfortable company continued as they headed to the location where the social gathering was held. Even with the other families joining forces, the mockery did not stop, so our hero ignored it and did not fall for their bait. He and Ava rested, prevailing by ignoring the nobles who spoke of the additional escort troops and the brutish knights, claiming that the rumor was true, and that they could go ahead and put their plan to enter the underworld into action. They believed they would finally taste the astronomical sums of money and power of the underworld, those who would thank them for teaching them how the world worked, until suddenly, they were attacked by monsters, asking the mages to secure their vision while they drew their swords. Noticing they were just goblins, weak monsters easily found in the forest. However, if there were too many, things would get dangerous. These knights noticed that all those on watch had perished because of these goblins, and they had never seen goblins with such strange appearances, with crystals embedded in their bodies. They were no larger, as if they were a new variant of goblins, which meant their physical abilities were different from what they knew. Soon, these goblins charged forward, attacking aggressively, tearing through the knights with magic. The mage noticed that a third circle spell, Rock Wall, and a second circle spell, Shield, were being used, until they truly realized that it was their hero who had cast these enhanced spells, not their division's mage. Then, Proto used compression, trapping the goblins in a ball of energy. After that, he employed vacuum and returned to Origins. Stones began to surge towards the goblins, shattering their bodies. Our hero commanded them to prepare and not stand idly by, just watching. Soon, the knights charged in, helping our hero eliminate these strange goblins, delivering sword and spear strikes, while our hero remained in the rear with his magic, until, by dawn, this horde of crystal-bodied goblins was finally vanquished. Everyone wondered who our protagonist was. He could use magic only a few more times a day, just 4 times. From the middle of the battle onward, he became an ordinary person with a lamentably empty mana reservoir. They asked the Count if he was injured, and he replied that he was fine. Even with Evan by his side, losing the ability to protect himself was terrifying. He had been debating whether he should have gone alone and decided to move in a group with other nobles. In any case, he noted that the amethyst was the biggest problem, as the divine descent had just occurred. It was a bizarre characteristic that appeared when an outer god was about to descend. Affected monsters became more ferocious, and their physical abilities were enhanced. It was a clear sign that the gods, who were only supposed to appear after the 5 sins descended, and the world's laws collapsed, were about to descend upon the earth. The children were not awakening to the 5 cardinal sins, and he wondered why this was happening. He needed to gather more information to understand why a god was descending to earth without the sins. At this rate, death would come very soon if things continued like this. The next day, at Rodagri's house, they arrived after many difficulties, and the grand social gathering began. Meanwhile, our hero just wanted to go home and sleep after a very exhausting fight. Seeing that it was a perfect place for a grand social gathering after all, everything was made of gold. Everyone flaunted their wealth, and Duke Rodagray was apparently competent because of it. Our hero did not want to interact with other nobles, as he was not very comfortable there, until someone asked permission to mock him. However, they offered him the highest quality meat from their territory and financial support. Our hero wondered what was wrong with them, suddenly offering such good things. However, his expression was utterly grim for some reason. The nobles became frightened and left, not delivering anything they had offered. One day before, during the battle against the goblins, something happened. The nobles saw Baron Amund and wanted to borrow his mage. They had questions for the third circle mage Baron Amund hired to display his wealth. He explains that what they saw was not a second circle magic, and its caliber was superior to his own, likely above the third circle, which shocked them. After all, Count Palladio didn't become this by luck. He was hiding a strength that didn't require escorts, and Palladio's true cold and cruel nature, so they planned to save their lives through bribes. But they had to beg. They knelt before our hero and began to plead for their lives. Begging for mercy, our hero had no idea why they were acting this way. Although he was usually merciful, they had crossed the line again. Our hero tells Evan he will handle it and gives the two a petty look. Now that he had sent Evan to the Information Guild, he would look for news about the nobility. Noticing two people having a very secret conversation, he began to enchant his hearing with Manhwa to listen to the dialogue. He noticed one of them talking to a baron about Duke Altia and Countess Zenonia. He noticed they were trying to create a faction, and didn't believe in this alliance. Our hero, however, wasn't concerned about it, as the two ruling families didn't get along, which made him believe their alliance wouldn't last long. And something even more surprising was that the faction leader was neither of them. They believed the leader of this faction was Count Palladio. Our protagonist heard this and was completely shocked by the absurdity. After all, he had met Duke Altia once when she was younger, and he had met Zenonia's daughter twice, but the current count had never even met him. It made him wonder how this rumor spread, and another person came to speak with Alan Palladio. This time it was Carmine, the third son of Duke Comelon, from the Ashitalan kingdom. Certain nobles from other countries participated in the social gathering, and the hero said it was a pleasure to meet Carmine. He had heard that our hero became a count by luck and was envious, asking for his secret, until two nobles came to interrupt. They arrived asking why Carmine was mocking the kingdom of Asteria. Then he corrected himself, realizing he was trying to bully Count Palladio and turning back to him. Carmine, like Alan, was a handsome and romantic man in his view. From a distant country, he came to take Rhoda Grey's youngest daughter as his wife. Believing himself to be too perfect for any woman to refuse him, he began to judge women by their appearance in front of the Duchess, saying it was a blessing that this girl had a beautiful appearance just like her mother's, so she decided to rethink the marriage, and he went after Rhoda Grey's daughter, not understanding why the marriage was cancelled after he was so much of an ass to her. Seeing that he had made a trip there seemingly in vain, he went to speak with Count Palladio. Having heard that he was immature and without connections, he found him a good target to vent on. Carmine said that the Ashitalan kingdom had been a long-standing ally of theirs. Suddenly, no matter how indifferent they were to politics, they knew who those three were. An important figure from the noble faction, Duke Roteger and a Marquis Mardanio, spoke and argued, defending their realms. One of them had no idea why they were being so disrespectful. This was the center of the moderate faction, Count Palin. They are the central axis of the Asteria kingdom and were arguing with Carmine. The noble Duke of Rhoda Grey says that Duke Comelon must be despising them, and there is a reason to call a noble's name so disrespectfully, and the main point is that he took a condescending attitude towards Palladio. He, in turn, finds it unpleasant to be the one the three barely know, or to be protected by them in this situation. Anyway, he was wondering why this scene seemed so familiar, and he remembers the three from the Asteria faction making Carmine pay during the game. This brings back traumatic memories from when they were in the army during the game. Carmine apologizes for the discourtesy and leaves. The three from the Asteria kingdom ask if Count Palladio is alright. He finds it strange and is startled by the noble's respectful behavior towards him today. Seeing these important figures acting this way makes the rumor seem true. Once Altia and Zenonia started getting involved in politics, Palladio's power would be overwhelming. Because of this rumor, things are becoming uncomfortable for him. Now that they think about it, I do not think they had any proper conversation. They heard he has been researching magic and has a very good artifact. The Marquis would like to present him with an artifact containing mana. One starts preparing gifts, and he would like to think that all of this is baseless. However, he could not overcome the temptation and obtain 2 magical artifacts and 5 mana potions. At dawn, in Duke Rotigri's annex, A conversation unfolds. The Marquis says that, fortunately, the noble accepted his gift. Light gifts among nobles signify merely a greeting. However, important materials like artifacts carry great significance for a person who wishes to join the faction. Gifting the faction leader means one wants to join it. He says all of this is thanks to Duchess Altea, and she welcomes Marquis Mardanio. Now they can officially share the same purpose. She is happy they are sharing the same goal and asks how the other nobles fared. The Marquis says everyone accepted the gift immediately and notes that Duchess Altea rarely makes moves, yet she came personally to speak with selected individuals. She certainly selected the necessary letters and compelled them to undergo a rite of passage through sincere bribery. Although rumors seem to be spreading like wildfire, this is clearly the political current. The Marquis wants to seize this opportunity, while she intends to act decisively now. On the fourth day of the banquet, spoils were somehow added one by one, likely because they were treating Alan well. Due to the false rumor that he was involved with Altea Zalonia, he decides to accept for now and plans to grab the goods and run from this situation. Evan arrives to speak with the Count, and he is greatly startled, hearing the story that an outer god has descended in the north and that Caliban is in an uproar. Based on ancient texts, they are speculating that amethysts are related to outer gods. The person our hero is looking for is in the village north of Ashudalin. Our hero says they will have to go to Caliban. Evan asks why he is suddenly planning to go north, and our hero will explain the details along the way. They depart immediately, and he truly didn't expect everything to escalate so much. It would be calamitous how the 5 cardinal sins and the outer gods are connected. It wouldn't be possible to know which outer god would descend and went through a divine descent. That's why he has to gather more information and act as quickly as he can. He didn't expect things to happen so fast, and hundreds of possibilities arose while he was playing. The ending naturally unfolds, and the allied kingdoms will crumble and collapse. They will fall into ruin, fighting foolish wars in a land tainted by otherworldly power. Then, his life will be destroyed in an instant. He will devise a plan to deal with this. However, after a god's descent, there will be a stabilization period of several months, until he finally awakens as a living god. He will wield his power as heroic spirits during that period, and targeting them will be the best option. He can't guarantee anything, but he will try it anyway. He writes a letter and signs it with his seal, wondering what that boy would like. A week later, the commander receives the letter. In it, the vice commander states that the next northern schedule is being postponed by 2 weeks. In Pakram, a village north of the Ashotelan kingdom, the protagonist didn't expect to easily find what he was looking for, seeing that the protagonist and playable character of Psychedelia is very distinctive. Seeing that a protagonist is a protagonist, as he looks exactly like the illustration. Our hero asks if he is a boy, and he introduces himself as Eli Ban. No matter how much this world differs from the game, the protagonist is the protagonist. Eventually he will become famous and strong, and our hero says he has a brilliant personality. He hands a bag of gold coins to the boy. Then, Evan also shows several mana potions, and loads him with gifts, suddenly handing all of this to the boy. It's an investment for a protagonist's early growth. He tells the boy that he will become a very important person in the future, and that he should hurry and grow to deal with worse things. Our hero forgot to introduce himself and says his name is Alan, Count of Palacio. He thanks him profusely, and will remember our hero's name and good deed. Our protagonist didn't remember Elaban's personality being so brilliant. Since the fantasy genre is dark, he didn't think he would be such an optimistic boy. Evan questions if it's alright to leave without having a proper conversation. Since the protagonist's life is at stake, he doesn't have time to build rapport. He put the protagonist on auto hunt. Evan says this boy seems to have incredible talent, as his mana is dense and swirling. Despite his common clothes, it seemed he was wearing artifacts. Our hero felt his energy, as this is a common state before an adventure. It could be an unexpected butterfly effect that is differing from the game, especially since he is the protagonist, and in any case he just needs to preserve his easy life plan. Eli Ban is one of the few kind-hearted people in the miserable world of dark fantasy. He doesn't worry, and asks Evan about God, asking if Sin will find him soon. He never visited the orphanage because he was afraid, but now he wants to find the Sins. 10 days later, in Caliban's capital, Certain, in front of Certain's north gate, our hero Evan arrives, both worn out from the long journey. If it weren't for the labyrinthine journey, he could hold his head high. They traveled from place to place to prepare for the war against the outer gods, and the gifts make them question if God will be satisfied. Their turn for the capital's inspection was almost here, which would conclude with an identity check. Still, our hero found it a relief that things moved quickly there. However, a small problem arose for the Count to deal with. They were being told to step aside, and they asked why. His identity was verified, and they asked if he was truly Count Palacio. Varen is the direct disciple of Master Knight Fiola, the fourth sword. He arrives to speak with our hero, who asks if he brought knights, and what the meaning of this was. He asks why our hero brought knights with him. The answer is that a friend in the kingdom of Asteria sent word that he was in debt. Our hero asks if it's Carmine, and the knight says that he deeply offended his friend, stating that he humiliated him beyond measure. Carmine then asked this knight to go to Caliban and cripple him. Carmine said that if he wanted to improve his skills, he would need more abyssal bodies, and he owed his friend, so he wanted to put on a show for him. Our hero notices that Carmine picked a fight on his own and then fled. He tells Alan that if he hands over everything inside the carriage, he will spare his life. Since this was the favor requested, he says he has nothing to lose. Our hero notices that he is just a minor noble from the kingdom of Asteria, with little influence in the Union, having no ties to Caliban. Even if things go a little wrong, his master will resolve it, until, as he lunges at Count Palacio, he is seized by the neck. We see Evan holding him from behind, asking how he dared to touch his benefactor. The crucial truth is that Varen failed to understand that the Count had triumphed in a duel against Kurg of the Snowfields. Kurg had earned the epithet, swordless. Using Varen's head, preventing him from attacking Alan, was the Master Knight, God Michaelian, his benefactor. He, God, appears, saying that if either of them moves, he will make them suffer. Our hero notices that the knight is God, who is grateful to be in a situation where he cannot eliminate Varen. Then he starts pummeling the man, and Evan says he does it very well. God is irritated that they tried to touch his benefactor. When young, he might have been grateful, but now that he has grown, he realizes he doesn't welcome someone he barely knows well. It was clear that after being sponsored, he had grown remarkably well. He had matured into an exceptionally upright young man. He will present himself this way because his favorite father was a weighty figure in a foreign land, or because his son is unbearably sweet. However, he finds this a bit excessive on Daos Michaelian's part, and it so happened that Daos was one of the 5 great sins at this time. He looked at our protagonist and chose him. Delman, Caliban's third sword and captain of the Crimson Flame Knight Order, raises a banner. Caliban declares to Kulkan the Great, one of the 8 chiefs, that his clan has been annihilated. As this was a victory for the Crimson Flame Knight Order, he decides to return to the advanced maintenance base. Having secured achievements of such magnitude, he will not be outdone now that he has just become a master knight, even if he used cunning means unknown to anyone. Caliban and the barbarians have long maintained wars that respect honor. However, he deceived Kulkan, and ensured he went out alone with an infiltration force. Thus, with this momentum, he successfully annihilated the entire clan, deceiving one of the 8 chiefs, wondering why the bastard finished off Kurga of the Snowfield, since he needed a clear result from the expedition. Kulkan's corpse disappeared during the battle, likely hidden by the barbarian. Even if he were still alive, he should have already died due to the poison. In any case, everything will be done once he returns to Caliban and reports this achievement. However, he realizes the advanced base is taken by Delman. He immediately attacked when he saw Delman's aura, knowing that Kulkan should also have died, yet stands. He says that he profaned a great and sacred duel staked on honor and terror. This one devours a superhuman capable of cutting down hundreds of lives with a single sword stroke. He notices it is not Kulkan standing there, feeling an evil aura, and hearing a voice from beyond. This voice commands him to answer, asking if it isn't his fault for trusting the word duel on the battlefield. The mysterious voice says he has risen to a human caliber, and this is his last chance. Thus, Kulkan calls him to a final honorable duel. All the knights prepare their swords, igniting them. He raises his fingers and says he is the dishonorable mortal and will not grant a barbarism of an honorable death. Everyone begins to feel immense pain and starts to rot as he raises his fingers. He then begins to eliminate them one by one using only his hands, no sword, delivering incredibly powerful attacks that make people explode. He places his hand on the knight and begins to inflict severe pain. Kulkan says that all the savages of this place made from those eliminated who were denied death, and he welcomes them to the bloody Colosseum. Introducing himself as the god of all barbarians, Valturos, the father of duels, personally wishing to grant an honorable end to all of them, asking them to prove they are not savages through this duel. Meanwhile, Deus Michaelian wants to guide our protagonist and Evan to some location. They notice he is bowing his head even without a sword. In caliber, Deus Michaelian's aspirations without a sword are as high as the heavens. He received no punishment for beating the second prince who had harassed his sister. He would never be polite to anyone but the king, so it was shocking for him to bow to a count from a foreign nation. For the swordless to bow his head, everyone notices that Count Pallet is very important. He asks them to get into a very flashy carriage. Evan asks Alan to go while he will follow him with the more ordinary carriage. He notices that Deus is living in a huge mansion and has staff and luxurious things. As the best way to show his respect and consideration, he wants to get straight to the point, stating that the reason he is there is to make a request to Deus. When Michalian hears this, knowing it's not an order but a request, he becomes very happy. He finds it strange and asks him to continue the conversation after they sit down. He notices that the host should be the one who sits in the highest seat. Noticing that he is treated just like his father in a count's position, he says he has a request and is aware of the burden Deus carries. He asks Michaela to accompany him to the north, and the boy accepts without hesitation. He says he was about to leave on an expedition to the north, which is why he accepted his benefactor's request so quickly. And the most difficult part is that he wants to borrow the madman's ring from Caliban's treasury. Meanwhile, we see someone speaking with the vice commander after returning from a mission. On the escort mission, someone was visiting the brother of a little girl named Miss Seeley, and Deus asked to inform everyone that they would postpone the northern trip for the next 2 weeks. After all, his benefactor would visit him soon, and he knew this because of the letter. A palace of the kingdom of Asteria arrives, surprising Seeley. Returning to the present, he asks for the Ring of Radiance from the kingdom of Caliban, knowing it was a senseless request, one that would put him in debt to the royal family. However, this ring was indispensable for the success of his plan. Just as Deus is about to accept the request, Evan appears, interrupting. Seeing the heavy atmosphere, he decides to present Deus Michalian with gifts, asking Evan to bring everything, starting to fill the boy's room with presents. He created a harmonious atmosphere, carefully choosing gifts to please Deus. He decides to open the gifts only when he is alone, as he thinks it would be rude to do so in front of the master. Noticing that the boy treats him with great respect, as he didn't let anyone harm him, he politely reiterates the request for the ring, and Deus says he will bring the item right away. He says it's in the treasury of the kingdom of Caliban, and it will take a week to retrieve that ring. Even if the king is annoying, he will eliminate about 50 people and get it. Deus asks if they can go now, and is completely serious about eliminating those people. He decides to recover as quickly as possible, and finds Deus' attitude very exaggerated. Michalian's sister appears, and Evan recognizes Sylvie. The two are friends and are happy to see each other. In the game, our hero saw the death scene of Deus' younger sister, but now that he knows her personally, he notices she is a copy of the boy. However, Deus tries to protect his sister, saying that he is not her friend. He knew Deus was broken after losing his family, but he didn't imagine he was so attached. We see Michalian very irritated with Evan, telling him not to approach his sister, noticing that if Deus is being so respectful to him, it might be because he saved Sylvie. Therefore, he is willing to do anything for our protagonist. Sylvie goes to speak with Prince Pallas, and Evan says he ordered her to be saved, and her brother would become a killing machine if she were to die, which is why he did what he did. They sincerely thank our protagonist, who wouldn't help them out of the goodness of his heart, yet it's still good to receive thanks. His stay at Michalia's house began, and he received the ring. The very next day, he asks how he managed to bring the item so quickly. Evan heard strange news, as Deus made a scene at the palace to have the artifact delivered. When the second prince refused, he slapped him across the face. After 3 days of being introduced, he joined an expedition to the north with the knights. 2 weeks later, exaggerated reports arrived from the outpost border in northern Caliber. They spoke of the casualties, of the arrival of the outer god. The plan is to retreat and yield to the barbarians, but some try to remain inflexible about this plan. One argued that the soldiers were too wounded, and without the kingdom's first blade, they wouldn't stand a chance against the barbarians, until someone clapped their hands to silence everyone. Fiola, Caliber's fourth blade, is the commander of the Order of Perseverance. She wants to reconsider the plan, as the outer gods are sowing chaos at the outpost. In eastern flank, Delman, Caliber's third blade, met his end. To the east, Kiriana, Caliber's second blade, is severely wounded. Michalia says these visions of horror are drawing near them. They are seeing an aura corrupted by malevolent mana approaching, a mana so chilling that only those who have awakened can perceive it, an aura so sinister it makes them consider retreating. They see a hero using his magic to fry sweet potatoes. They begin discussing barbarian rituals and believe humans must be saved. Deus believes this is the Order of the Silver Shadow. Kiriana, the second blade, the vice master of the magic tower, the blue-haired girl from the tower, asks them to observe developments. When he goes to send our hero away, she is speechless, as she hadn't realized it was him. She wonders how he is there, and our hero tells the vice commander that the rumors are apparently real, and the medicine she mentioned is out of stock, so the girl will prepare it later, as she is very busy. Our hero was truly hoping she could help, and she becomes embarrassed about it. Finances are tight, so Alan's payment will be delayed. The girl said a single coin would be enough, and he doesn't want to refuse her generosity. The vice commander begins to smile, and the magic tower's subordinates are shocked. She was tricked out of hundreds of gold coins and must have lost her mind. So, she will pre-prepare the mixture immediately and serve it silently. The Blue Magic Tower's servants notice that she greatly respects Count Alan Palace. Inside the tent, he feels a very strong malevolent energy. Deus Michaelia warns that they are under attack right now, ordering everyone to fight back, but they begin to be massacred, until the girl uses the malignant shard technique, creating an ice mesh that clings to the monsters' bodies and then explodes them. Deus Michaelia looks to the horizon and finds the greater enemy, facing the despair that only an overwhelming force can cause. The incarnated outer god commands them not to profane the sins of those who have lost their honor. He takes a sword blow to the chest, yet doesn't even flinch. The swift blade has no effect on him and doesn't even pierce his chest. Then he counterattacks and eliminates the person who tried to pierce him, saying they won't be entitled to an honorable elimination. Fiola was eliminated in a matter of seconds, leaving everyone in shock. Then a person approaches Uterus, the great god of duels, and says that according to the Oath of Calgilia, Alan Palladio presents himself to honor the sacred promise and request a Babylonian duel against him. Uterus notes that someone knows the oath, which is very unexpected. Even so, he doesn't stop attacking and eliminating other knights. He creates a bloody coliseum, welcomes the noble, and says that no one will interfere with the duel. According to the Great Pact, Uterus accepts the sacred Babylonian duel. Our hero realizes he has a terrifying presence and was wrong about him. He thought Uterus was far from manifesting. The closer an outer god gets to incarnating, the more power they gain, rivaling the cardinal sins. If he hadn't drunk the potion of excellence, he would have fainted, this being his last chance before the manifestation is complete. That's why he wanted to start the Babylonian duel now, which is played in turns. The first rule is that the challenged person has the initiative. Uterus slams into him with an incredibly powerful blow, wondering why his opponent stands still after seeing such a massive strike coming his way. The second rule is that the defender cannot move out of turn, and if hit by an attack, they won't be able to move at all. Uterus notices that he is truly honorable, and knows the rules by not attempting to dodge. The third rule states that the attack and defense turns only allow opponents to swap positions at the end of the next turn, and now it's the defender's turn, who is our protagonist. A basic defense would be useless against such terrifying power, so he uses immobilization, condensation, reinforcement, and deepening. Even if he has to use all his magic to block a single attack, he will. Uterus's attack is overwhelming, erupting with an abyssal amount of mana. When the smoke from the explosion clears, they see that Alan survived. He used the artifact he asked God for, and a potion of excellence. The Remithian potion allows for the deepest pain to be alleviated. Our hero used it now, and if he hadn't, he wouldn't be standing. Everything went according to his plan, using the artifacts he requested from you, Commander, and God. He can't recover everything at once, but he will be able to move because he used a supreme potion, fulfilling the conditions to enter a state of frenzy. He then uses Binding Invocation, and it's time for his attack. The fight against the boss Uterus is turn-based, with different rules. It is recommended to play after learning the rules of the duel. In the game, the outer god's actions were limited by the rules, which is why he dragged him into a duel. That's why Uterus accepted the sacred Babylonian duel. With the Pendant of Reincarnation and the Healing Potion, he survived after the first blow. Immediately after, our hero invoked his restriction. He discovers that the activation condition for the Madman's Ring is to have 1 foot in the grave. Close to death, the restriction is completed, and the ring is activated. Since he considers duels sacred, he will neither defend nor interrupt. In the game, he would receive the first attack, and the enhancement would remove some of the time limit. But since there is no time limit, he will attack without worrying about it. With the first restriction, when he uses magic, extreme cold occurs, twisting the laws of the world, and then he uses diffraction in sequence. The second restriction, by using magic in a near-death state, he twists the laws of the world again, increasing his rays, utilizing focus and condensation. Finally, he will annihilate using magic against a god, and twisting the laws of the world again. He acquires the front line of silence magic. Finally, the fourth restriction is that when it is used against Uterus, the great god of duels, it twists the world again. The annihilating ray slammed into the outer god, erupting into a massive, blinding explosion. He hopes it will be a success, and eliminate the god with the first blow. However, outer gods do not disappear when they lose a part of their body. He was left with a gaping hole in his chest, his very heart torn away. He states that our hero is very strong, and the final blow failed. Our hero drained all the mana he had accumulated, and could not eliminate the god, who says he was carrying the will and possesses the class. Our hero notices an infernal fire surging around Uterus. He says it was an excellent duel and suddenly begins to disappear. He says it is worth keeping an eye on the black and the blue. Assuming he lost the duel, he will leave a gift along with authority, stating that he remembers the hand signs and the mysteries of the great forgotten god, and will carry his will. When the usurpers break free from their bonds to crawl out, he must call Uterus' name, and not the epithet bathed in falsehood, but his true name. The wicked is the name he must claim, and at that moment the outer god disappears. The expedition becomes busy, gathering the corpses, preparing to return to Caliber. The vice commander of the magic tower notes that the count is from the second circle of magic. Caliber, saying he is from the third circle, and asks about the term black and blue that the god mentioned. She begins to deny it, saying she does not know what it is, and becomes extremely afraid to speak with Alan. She runs off, and he thinks that receiving thanks makes him feel like a cruel villain at that moment. He questions why the outer god disappeared after his failed attack, noticing the belt in the carriage that he had seen in the game. It is the belt of the Forgotten, obtained by defeating Taurus, which amplifies attack damage twofold. It is the first time he sees a phrase inside the belt, and he will discover something when he arrives in Kahara. Deus says the mage dared not bid him a proper farewell before leaving and asks if he should eliminate her. Our hero notices that Deus Mycalian is becoming increasingly reckless. 2 weeks after this event, they go to Curitan, the capital of Caliber. With Deus reporting the result of the subjugation to the king, the northern expedition ends. They bid farewell, and our hero receives many gifts from the king of Caliber. He invested all his money to save his life and is happy about it. Deus asks if he can become as strong as Count Allah, and he finds it strange, as Mycalian is the youngest to become a Master Knight. Even before the gods merge with sins and descend, children's unique abilities are extremely powerful. Deus is very talented with the sword and, in a short time, will become as strong as he wishes. Therefore, our hero replies to him that he will achieve it with enough effort, but in truth, he knows the boy has a blessed talent he also wished he had. Finally, Mycalian asks why he is asking for favors instead of giving orders this time. Our hero says that no one in the world gives orders to their own family. When God Mycalian hears that he is part of Count Allah's family, he is speechless. Now our hero wonders if he has discovered some hidden motive behind his patronage. After all, the reason he sponsored him with his precious money was out of pure goodwill. He understands why people say being a father is a thankless job. He followed him to return the kindness, but ended up receiving even more than that. God Mycalian tries to break the silence with his fingers, telling himself he wished he had Count Alan's magic talent. He keeps thinking about the fact that our hero called him family. Finally, our hero arrives at his mansion after 3 months to find a pile of papers for him to deal with. He pretends it is not his room, and then starts to feel overwhelmed by all the work. After that, he took a week off because he was very tired and wanted a peaceful life. During his week-long vacation, he became stressed. Even though he wasn't working, he kept thinking about the plagues that attacked the Sins, the Blue Thing, and the God of Chaos, wanting to resolve the issues Taurus left behind regarding the mysterious ritual gestures. God of Chaos is the name Taurus left forgotten, just like the Eastern gods, and it was the first time he had seen someone evaporate like that. He wonders why he disappeared if he didn't win the duel, and he fears other gods might emerge. It is less problematic than the 5 cardinal sins, as the gods grant life prematurely. He really wants to visit Carrara, but he doesn't know where it is. He wrote down things about the RPG game, so he wouldn't forget. The city has not been discovered by explorers, and he fears complicating things if he goes there. Evan notices it is very cold because of his magic. Our hero is improving after doing research during his vacation. Evan also tells him that a hidden city has been discovered in Colony. Meanwhile, the Sins held a semi-annual Blue Moon meeting via a crystal ball that lasted 10 minutes. The cat-eared girl heard that the Great Moon visited Caliber. God usually remained silent. However, he decided to share his experience with his siblings. The story begins with him recounting the duel against Trurus, and it takes him 50 minutes to tell the whole story. Reaching the most important part, he said that the only person who could predict the final blow was the Great Moon, stating that it was incredible to see the Great Moon fight and prepare its attack. Yucha knows that the Great Moon is on another level of magic in combat. 2 hours later, God Michalian finishes telling the story. The meeting lasted over 3 hours, an absolute record because of the boy. Suddenly, Count Alan enters his room with many gifts. Alan says they are artifacts from the deep floors of the labyrinth, which could be used to complete a quest. However, he doesn't know any of the nobles who sent these to him. The letters are impressive, and they know all of this was due to a single contact. One thing anyone working for a small company quickly learns is that they must accept what is offered to them. Then, a week passes, and he receives another gift, and they just keep coming. He finds it incredible what he can achieve just by knowing a master knight and God is a great son. He will overlook the fact that he never contacted him before this. Given the quantity of gifts a month later, he is still receiving gifts, and they just keep coming. This makes him consider sending them back, as they are simply too excessive. At the beginning of summer, as the gifts became rarer, we see a scene in the capital of the Kingdom of Asteria. At the Grand Assembly, our hero attended and arrived late for the first time. They walk very quickly, as our hero is embarrassed by his lateness. Suddenly all the nobles begin to follow Count Alan, and he realizes he is not late. The royalists are on the left, and the aristocrats on the right at the Grand Assembly. He sits in the back, and everyone starts to follow him and stare deeply. All eyes turn to our protagonist, Alan. They waited for him to enter, as no one wanted to sit in the front row, wondering what the point was of sitting near the faction leaders. When they begin, they announce that the new faction, Culpa, has received voting rights, and it is said that Count Palacio is the president of Culpa. My hero is apparently the only one who doesn't know about this. Looking at the two women, he remembers the alliance between Zenonia and Altia and the founded faction. The faction's name is Culpa, and they made him president. He is the president of the new evil faction, and this was something he hadn't planned. Someone wonders how far our protagonist will go upon seeing the destroyed battlefield, while he considers his response as a representative at the General Assembly, but he doesn't want to suddenly become the evil leader of a faction. Seeing that he has nothing to say, they continue, and he is congratulated on the founding of the Cal faction. He is the protagonist of the night, and they begin to celebrate greatly because of it. The two from the Alliance ask if he is enjoying the night. Duchess Althea and Countess Zenonia are the women he spoke with a few years ago, and he didn't expect this butterfly effect. They are happy to return the favor he did by saving their lives. According to the information he gathered by talking to the two, after he ordered an alliance between them, the Cal faction was born through instructions sent to Zenonia. By sending gifts to him, the leader, they were accepted into it. However, he swears he never told any of them to do everything they are doing. He wondered why some letters didn't make sense, until he understood it was a misunderstanding. And from his experience, people who act in the shadows have a peculiar perception. Althea doesn't consider it a misunderstanding. After all, he gave a lot of gifts, and he is afraid of how they will react because their personalities in the game are horrible. He will stay in the position for a while and then retire. After all, he has already received too many gifts. He knows nothing about politics and doesn't know what to start doing. However, he said he would start by cleaning up the underworld and withdraws from the conversation, deciding to get out before they ask questions he couldn't answer, and he would be embarrassed. Our hero asks Evan if he sent the letter, and he replies yes. Our protagonist tells them to go straight to Colonia and not look back. As part of Zenonia's plan, they manage to scare our hero away. He has already taken control of the underworld in his area a long time ago. Their idea is to unify the underworld, and they are eager to do so. They also want to see what Alan Palladio will do next, and they are plotting something serious, until a man with an eye patch and a dagger in his hand finds our protagonist's carriage. He thinks it would be easy to eliminate Alan, but God Michalian would intervene. Even his leader warned against making overwhelming enemies despite the high reward. However, he believes his master would understand if he heard about the mission to eliminate Alan. In the south of the Ashudalan kingdom, at Duke Camelin's mansion, the assassin arrives with someone who knows him well. The assassin says he has a connection to the Seeker. These are the Agents, an organization of assassins from the Federation Kingdom with master-level sword skills. Rats are not allowed during the mission, and they quickly dispatch the henchman. Camelin says he is as strong as I expected, and asks him to eliminate Count Palladio. He will not refuse this request. After all, it comes from a man known as the Tyrant of Ashudalan. If he completes the mission correctly, he will receive rewards. The assassin is not sure if Lord Carmine will cover the cost. After all, he requested 4 of the magic cubes he held, which are abyss entities. Not unlike orbs, abyss entities are items that Duke Camelin distributes in small quantities on the black market. Unlike abyss orbs, which only enhance physical abilities, these entities grant special powers. It is traded at extremely high prices, and the assassin believes he would become incredibly powerful using it, which is one of the reasons agents become the best, and he accepts the mission upon seeing this. Carmine says Alan will not live in peace after disrespecting him in that manner, so the assassin goes to Duke Camelin, the leader of the Ashudalan Kingdom's nobles, and a major underworld force in the Federation Kingdom, asking the Seeker if it is alright to do this, even though with the high reward. The leader said not to oppose the House of Cal in any way. Duke Camelin turns a blind eye and lets the assassin do as he pleases. Then he asks if he would like him to send his regards to the leader, and he says he can. The Seeker asks the man if he cannot exert any influence in the kingdom of Asteria. He replies that the Cal faction, with Count Palacho as its leader, is growing too powerful. This person is Chutro, an underworld power in the Ashudalan Kingdom. Camelin says it has been inconvenient for him to act personally thanks to this Cal faction, so the assassin goes to our hero's carriage, with the Abyss entity he is to acquire, saying he holds no resentment towards Count Palacho. He is only doing this for the relic. When he moves to strike, his arm is ripped from his body, and then a massive blow from above slams down on him. One of the Sin girls attacks him, declaring he will no longer be able to move. She raises a finger and utterly obliterates his body, bringing an end to this assassin who tried to eliminate the Great Moon, stating he would not have been eliminated by her if the target hadn't been Count Palacho. During the journey, they begin to feel intense heat, and 5 days pass. Evan asks if he doesn't want to practice his magic, but he cannot, as one mistake could turn into a catastrophe. In any case, joining the caravan was a good idea for the protagonist. After all, they are unfamiliar with the desert and are traveling alongside Lyanna Gullies. She is the daughter of the Red Magic Tower Master and a rank 4 mage. Our hero argues with her a bit and wishes for a moment of peace. Evan asks if he saw the pile of ice crystals hanging from her carriage. He knows the Red Magic Tower Master is a maniac, and it's best to stay away from his daughter. Meanwhile, an ambush occurs, and ninjas begin to cut down people with bladed weapons. One of them takes the red-haired woman hostage and tells everyone to listen to his proposal. He orders them to cooperate in silence or the worst will happen. They recognize the symbol of the Bloody Sand Bandits who are trying to capture Liam. They said the Tower Master's daughter was there, and he managed to find her. Because of her trauma, Liam can't breathe and tries to ask his name. Suddenly, she starts to feel cold and regains her breath. Then, Count Palacio appears, using the magical technique of the Snowlands. The Tower Master's daughter faced provocations because of her position and developed trauma. That's why, even as a rank 4 mage, she is very sensitive to energy. She thinks he barely has enough mana to reach rank 2. And must believe that Alan has an important role in the battle against the Outer God. Even knowing he is the benefactor of the Night Master God Michaelion, she thinks he is weak. She couldn't help but feel contempt for Count Alan the moment she saw him. However, she notices that he uses combined enchantments and linked 3 elements. The success rate of combined enchantments requires connecting several chants with unique and distinct structures, dropping drastically with each added chant. Yet he succeeded, something that should require at least a rank 5 to master this technique. When the Bloody Bandit lunges at the protagonist, he uses the freezing tactic. After freezing the man's body, he then uses the demolition technique. The bandits scatter the moment their leader is eliminated. Therefore, as soon as their leader is eliminated, he orders everyone to flee. The bandits run off, and Lion realizes that the rumors about Alan were real. He is soon presented with wine and food, and everything goes well. It seems that reducing the restriction penalties was a great idea. The Snowland spell he created during his vacation uses space, ice, and maintenance simultaneously. He transforms the surroundings into a polar zone, but magic used in snowy terrain, near death, or against a god, reduces magical power. Also, when magic is used against the great god of outer duels, magical power is reduced. This allows him to limit the lifelong penalties he will have to bear to just 3. Still, combining 3 enchantments just to last a meager minute is not efficient. In any case, the combined enchantments with Snowlands worked well. With the belt, his power increased, and he resolved the penalty issues. Lion apologizes to our hero kneeling before him, saying she would like to discuss magic with him. He accepts the apology, even though he had been willing to argue with her earlier. The conversation continued all the way to Colony, and was very interesting. Even though he uses enchantments to bend the rules of magic, he learned things from her. They arrive in Colony, and she invites him to go to the conference. Our hero replies that he is not affiliated with any tower, and is not invited. She offers for him to join the Red Magic Tower, as she greatly enjoyed their conversation. He ends up accepting, and they will meet at the conference in Colony. Evan says he has already taken care of the luggage, and mentions the meeting point. Suddenly, people are slammed against a wall behind them. Lightning and magic also erupt, until he notices the presence of one of the 5 great sins. She embraces our hero, and calls him Godfather. Seal Rang is happy to find him, and says the place is full of bandits. However, she says she will take care of these scoundrels to protect our hero. She is one of Colony's 4 Baba Yagas. Seal Rang, the Golden Lightning. She was looking forward to the protagonist's arrival after his letter. People wonder who this man is, being treated so kindly by the Golden Lightning. Seal introduces her guild, comprised of people of her race. When they enter the castle, everyone greets the chief. Ralga tells her chief that nothing happened during her absence. He also welcomes Seal's guest of honor. She says she manages the staff, as they are family to her. Seal Rang says that he and Yusha come right after that, as they are not blood relatives. She says they barely talk, and yet he is in 3rd place, which surprises the protagonist. He thinks about how to bring up the topic, and Evan gives a lot of presents to sell. She gets very excited, and decides to help our hero. Even though they are not family because he is her benefactor, she agrees to help, being able to gather her race because of him. At that moment, she notices something matching the description of the Golden Mane tribe's essence. Everyone is willing to help them without hesitation, and he is being great at creating villains. She picks him up to let him rest after the long journey. She asks about the outbound journey, knowing it's bothersome due to the sand, and Evan says the return trip also worries him, due to the heat and the ambushes they faced. Alan tells about the attack by the Bloody Sand Bandits that happens to merchants. When the firm doesn't want to encounter them again, Seal Rang seems to be planning something to help her benefactor. At the hideout of the massive criminal organization of the Bloody Sand Bandits, she goes there, using her gauntlet and slaughtering many of these bandits for bothering her chief, unleashing her lightning, and delivering devastating blows that easily obliterate them until she encounters Kalman's younger brother, who is the leader. He says he is under the protection of the strongest Baba Yaga, and they shouldn't pick a fight. The fact that he messed with her benefactor first, and she doesn't want to get into trouble, causes her to utterly annihilate him. She unleashes a massive explosion, and extinguishes the life of Kalman's younger brother. Our hero wakes up the next morning, and discovers that all the Bloody Sand Bandits have been eliminated. She says they won't cause any more problems, and did all this to be praised by him. The bandits have hundreds of night-level fighters, and he is impressed by her Baba Yaga title and strength, realizing that she was destined to become the Sin of Pride, who was extremely powerful. They go to the Colosseum, a popular attraction in Colony, steeped in the vital fluids and madness of gladiators. One of Colony's only 4 Baba Yagas and the gladiator who held that position for a long time have a fight. This match is a victory for Kalman. He talks to a man who can't believe they thought they could defeat a Baba Yaga with hundreds of people. Halga says that the Bloody Sand Bandits were annihilated by Seal Rang. He knows this and that his brother was involved. Not really. It's a rumor he spread to keep him close and control him. Kalman will follow through, as it would be impossible to execute this plan amidst a legitimate match between Baba Yagas. He is bothered by Alan, who is causing trouble in Colony. He will use this excuse for the public to accept Sermon's death, and the revenge to eliminate Alan Palladio. The fact that Ralga came to him means he is also ready to help. He hands over a gift from their father, the Seeker, saying that the boy will gain power using the orbs and spheres of the underworld. They will devour Colony's underworld and aim for the throne after using these relics. They will conduct an experiment to see how long he can endure using this. 2 days later, they are protected and guided by the guild and head to the ancient city of Carrara. They reach the ruins and split up. Our hero and Evan take a dark path using a lantern. In the ancient city of Carrara, they see enormous structures. A voice from beyond calls the mage, who hears its words clearly, telling him to come in its direction. Our hero will ascend alone. Evan waits while our hero enters this area. The voice says that because he can hear it, he meets the minimum requirements. Our hero almost calls this shadow uterus, but corrects himself, approaching it and calling it the Perverse, which is its true name. The Perverse says it's worth taking a risk with him, but he doesn't have the proper class, and it can't do anything. Evan says that this class is the standard by which the world judges a person. An outer god will descend soon, so he will have to deal with that. Afterwards, he will have to fulfill the conditions to continue their conversation. Since someone better than the fools who imitate magic has arrived, it will share an interesting fact, telling our protagonist that magic is the law designated to the world by the Archmage, and the magic of this world is a manifestation of one's true nature. and after a phrase comes a principle. What he manifests with the phrase must become uncontrolled according to the principle, and he must recite the name for it to be pure and absolute magic. Our hero has never heard of a principle, and the perverse says he wouldn't understand even if it explained everything. That's why it will teach him about principle, which is true magic in practice. Meanwhile, Seolrang notices that her benefactor is taking too long, until the older brother finds her, easily knocking one of her henchmen to the ground. She asks how Kalman dares to do something immoral outside the Colosseum. He knew she annihilated the bloody sand and his younger brother too. He claims this is revenge for his family and charges at her. The girl pursues him, telling him not to touch her family while unleashing spells. They clash in combat, as she wants to protect her family. He had already expected this, and she is filled with intense hatred for him. Because he had anticipated it, he orchestrates an ambush, and she takes a blow to the back. Ralga says her chief is too obvious and betrays her. Seolrang has a strong attachment to her relatives, and didn't want to believe that Ralga would do such a thing. After all her family members always called her a great leader, and she was very happy because they were her family. As she lamented the days she lived with others from the Golden Mane tribe, she wanted to recreate those times after the orphanage. She desired revenge against the black dragon that destroyed everything in the past, wanting to find her relatives once more, and the king of the beast men, the Golden Mane tribe. Their descendants have an attachment to their relatives. Unfortunately, this is not true for all of them, which is why Ralga stabbed her in the back. The older brother tells Ralga to stop stalling and eliminate her at once. She uses her gauntlet to deliver a powerful punch, unleashing lightning. Kalman says she's very good at running away, like a coward. However, he amplified his power several times with the abyssal entity to land that punch on her. The girl also lunges with a punch, and their two blows clash, and that's when Ralga comes in with a black abyssal blade to cut her down. The girl performs an acrobatic maneuver to evade his strike, and he wonders how long she can last. Having an authority granted by the essence of the abyss as well, he attacks her repeatedly alongside Kalman, but the girl keeps dodging. She gains momentum from a rock and delivers a kick, with lightning crackling around it. An effective blow, yet Ralga takes little damage. However, Kalman is slammed against the wall and is slightly injured. Suddenly, her benefactor emerges from the cave, as if nothing is happening. Having received orders, he believes it's the perfect moment and charges at him, deciding to use him as a hostage before eliminating our protagonist. Ralga continues to confront Seolrang, and they engage in agile combat. However, it's revealed that the blade used to stab her was poisoned, and the girl begins to lose control of her body. Hyoga asks if she truly believed the tribe had gathered to play make-believe with her. He explains it was because of the authority granted by the essence of the Golden Mane tribe and her possession of the gauntlet. Hyoga thought she was strong and was flaunting the absurd power of that gauntlet. Even though they only gathered in pursuit of power, the time they spent together was real for her. She felt they had become a family, just like in the past. While Hyoga thinks she's daydreaming and considers it pathetic, showing that everyone in the tribe had betrayed her and also hated her. It is said that the essence should belong to someone more worthy than her. As he moves to strike her with his black abyssal energy sword, someone intervenes. A blow is dealt to Kalman, and he collapses to the ground. The sword strike was delivered by Alan Palladio, leaving Hyoga in shock. Looking at our hero and seeing a bizarre energy, Alan realized there was a thread of dark magical power emanating from an abyssal entity. Magical entities appear in the middle of the original story within that black cube. Because of the strange description, there was much speculation surrounding this object. He notes that Sarong's guildmates betrayed her, realizing they are in the highest level healing position and will be able to move soon. He heals his friend and says that some did not betray her. He realized the guild had been a happy place until this moment. The girl is devastated by what happened, but she wipes away her tears and presses on. She continues to hold firm, for her family awaits her. He charges forward and attacks using the gauntlet, while the protagonist charges his ice magic. With only one ice spell left, he casts it now, amplifying its form and creating a freezing maelstrom. Uterus notes that he knew the words but couldn't form the phrases, and that these words alter laws while phrases are a key that brings one closer to them. After losing the great legacy, they learned impossible abbreviations. Our hero uses the renown of a snowy mountain, an incredibly powerful spell. Finally, he uses the phrase pen of the blind to unleash this ice. In his mind, Uterus' voice speaks of the ice spear, its true name forgotten by foolish mages, and our hero calls it a halberd painted with ice crystals when casting the spell. The enormous ice crystals hurl towards Kalman and Ralga. When Halga sees the attack coming, he knows he needs to defend. Our hero then wields the halberd painted with ice crystals, which flies towards the enemy. The blow is incredibly powerful, but Halga manages to perceive it in time. He takes the hit to the chest, however, and his Rang manages to deflect it. A massive ice barrier is created, leaving Evan surprised. A large ice shard that pierces the enemies is formed. All of them are impaled by the ice, and Halga utters his last words, stating that he must eliminate our protagonist, and he actually manages to break free. If he gains control of the essence, he can start all over again. Then he leaps onto our hero with the Sword of the Abyss. Our hero is run through and spits out some vital fluid, which enrages Cell, and she kicks him. He wasn't even that hurt, and the combat was over. The knife only grazed him, and he only spat out the fluid because he had exhausted his mana. He didn't think it would be so exhausting as to cause internal damage. He remembers what Calkin said about Chutru mentioning that his father found him a nuisance. He doesn't know what the man meant by that, and it's a relief that it's all over. When facing an opponent who has absorbed an entity from the abyss, he has to be careful. He remembers the third restriction that was used against a god who twisted the laws of the world, and he knows that when he faces a god, he becomes stronger. Our hero wonders if he should try to cheer Sal up first and not sink into dark emotions, but in reality, he is sad that the master didn't dodge, and she blames herself for him suffering an attack. Our hero said she could block it and believed in her. She asks why he saved her and got hurt in the process. He thinks it was a reflex, as he raised her like a daughter for years, stating that he doesn't need a reason to save his family. She says her only family was the tribe, but she states she wants to be part of Alan's family. It's like when an adoptive father doesn't receive recognition for years and is finally called father. He feels happy, and she says she was the golden mane and he a human. Then she says they can get married, which leaves both him and her in shock. 5 days later, news of Kalman's atrocities spreads throughout colony. Many were shocked by the coward Baba Yaga. Kalman and Sarah Rang gained support to become the first Baba Yaga. She keeps asking to marry our protagonist, and he doesn't know what to do. He was even happy at first because she's cute. However, he said it was the 19th time she had asked, and he considers her only family. She said she would make her benefactor happy, and that they really should get married. Our hero, however, would already be very happy with sweet potatoes and a peaceful noble life, and doesn't want to deal with that. Our hero thinks she will give up if he doesn't respond. Then they say goodbye, and the guild changed to further align with his ideals. When all of Sul's relatives became furious and worried about Halga's betrayal, merely gathering her tribe wasn't happiness. Even in a life or death situation, her ideal family is one where they believe in each other. She starts to be more careful and wants to create a guard to protect her benefactor. Only then can they be a happy family forever. Evan tells him that the Information Guild has no suspects other than Halga's men. Our hero doesn't want anything to happen to her after raising the girl so well. He was advised to watch out for the other outer gods for what's to come. He only knows about deities, and doesn't know if anything beyond that will happen. Many questions are accumulating, and he remembers what the shadow told him. The Wicked One told him that the search for the tower on the far east of the fortress in Carrara was recorded in the past. It was the first time he could read this tablet with knowledge, but just like in the game, the gods are mentioned metaphorically. Nothing else he knows connects with the things he is reading. He wonders why the outer gods are used in reverse. After all, they are the gods of people's faith or from other worlds, while the true gods refer to, there are the 5 cardinal sins. This stone tablet records the 5 cardinal sins as outer gods. This doesn't leave his mind, as it's very confusing. Furthermore, news arrives that Deus defeated the first sword Reinhardt. Our hero didn't expect him to become so strong in half a year, and the boy has absurd talent. Meanwhile, Ren became a member of the 3 councils that decide Lartania's policies, and Redan unified 5 archipelagos as the Pirate King. He has a bounty in the millions, just like the first pirate king in history. He went from a Somali pirate to a Somali pirate king, and Udia is declaring war against another chief. After all, Seal announced at the meeting that he would marry the Great Moon, leaving everyone shocked and Udia filled with extreme hatred. Udia notices that her Rang is trying to exaggerate as always, while she insists she will marry him and be a great wife. Udia says that's not possible, as they are all his shadows. She tries to argue against Udia, who retorts by saying they will stay by his side and not marry him. Sio says that what the Great Moon thinks is more important. The white-haired girl retorts by saying he would never choose her. When she asked if the benefactor hated her, he said it wasn't quite like that. However, she is exaggerating now, as if she would marry him just because he said that. When she tells what really happened, Deus says he saw something magnificent a year ago, a calm demeanor, as if he had walked the path of hell many times. He couldn't assess his strength and doubted after feeling the enemy's magical power, yet he defeated Taurus. Sio says he is admirable and will become stronger to become his wife. 2 hours later, The conversation continued at the meeting, and Deus tried to give an ultimatum. Then Yudia interrupted and said that the girl couldn't marry him. They kept fighting, and the Blue Moon's semi-annual meeting had the following notes. The first is that Deus cannot be asked anything about the Great Moon. The second is that regarding Yudia and getting involved with the Great Moon, it was forbidden, as he would ultimately display childish behavior, which is new for Yudia. In the capital of the Asteria Kingdom, within a dark alley, a possible alliance to overthrow the Cow faction is proposed. The leader of the aristocratic faction, Marcus Phil Boyd, says that Alan's presence is disturbing. Then the leader of the realist faction, Duke Harengrave, says they can take the Holy Rosary Kingdom using the Reform Letter, which is the center of religion and the Holy Rosary Kingdom itself. They can send letters across nations to anyone suspected of heresy. For it to be sent, several cardinals must support it, which gives this letter its power. It would be a ruthless pretext, and the demands are half of the cardinals' bribe. They agree and conclude the discussion with the cardinals. This plan will soon come to fruition. They will leave the remaining steps to the cardinals and make a toast as the unified faction comes into being. Despite having 8 subordinates to the saint and the pope, they are very busy, and he believes this is only the second time they have met. He greets Cardinal Sergios and would like to borrow his name for a reform letter to Count Palacio, saying it wouldn't be a bad proposal for the cardinal and could create a pretext for Alan's heresy. However, he is asking this of Cardinal Yudia, who is none other than Alan Palacio's daughter. She maliciously asks if he wants to use her name to draft a reform letter and bury the count. In response, the priest says they will focus on Cardinal Viendra's suspicious death. In her position, she should understand, and he wants to keep the bribe for himself, able to use the money lavishly. However, he takes a blow from Yudia and crashes to the ground, injured. She is enraged by his suggestion to eliminate the man she reveres most. As she begins to unleash her energy and magic to torture him, people around them sense it. She tells him that no one will come to save him, even if he screams. He is tortured, his body losing vital fluids, yet she does not stop. She wields her magic to torment him further. He screams for her to stop, but she doesn't. He kneels and begs for his life. He pleads for her to end him quickly, but she refuses. She declares that for trying to harm Alan, he will be punished. She begins to drain his soul, and we see several black tentacles erupting from her. She tells him he must acknowledge his sins to be forgiven. A month after returning from the desert, the preparations are almost complete. He began his preparations to attend the magic conference. As the leader of a faction in a county, he will investigate entities from the abyss and outer gods. He obtains a certificate attesting to his position as a faction leader, and a legitimate salary. The amount far exceeded what he could have expected. Before the deposit, he was short on money, and now he wants to fulfill this role and earn even more. He has no idea how a faction is structured to earn so much money. The modern man's panacea is money, so he ended up selling himself. This is the true magic of capitalism in this era. At the Viridium Marquis conference venue, he heard that several renowned individuals would participate, until he encounters Zenonia and Althea, the two who form the faction. He tells them he has been well. He embarked with the 2 underworld figures and, due to a misunderstanding, finds himself in a situation he didn't want. Evan tells him that the leader of the realist faction received a reform letter and went to the Holy Kingdom. Our hero is relieved, as he no longer wanted to see this man. Suddenly, an old man approaches our hero, trembling, saying he has lost something and needs his help. He reveres our hero and asks to be spared. Everyone is shocked as Phil Boyd, the leader of the aristocratic faction, bows his head to him. Unlike the underworld and the political sphere, everything is based on cause and justification. Bowing one's head before another is equivalent to offering up one's authority. Zenonia finds our hero incredible for having achieved this. Even now, he remains calm, as if he had foreseen all of this. A few days ago, this man received a mysterious letter. It bore a striking resemblance to a reform letter. The accompanying magic orb contained a 5-second message. It was the cardinal's voice, telling him he had to read the sacred letter and look at the moon. He was also screaming in pain and saying they had made a mistake, showing Duke Ringgrave, who had received a reform letter himself. Then the orb shattered, and the letter stated that he was next. He only wanted to end the Count's political career and doesn't understand why this happened. Receiving a reform letter means the end of one's political life, and safety should not be in danger, as he was not a heretic. However, Duke Ringgrave, with no ties to heretics, suffered the consequences, making the mark we believe that Alan is behind this, and that the real problem is that he is the next target. He only wanted to live the rest of his life in peace, so he knelt before Alan, stating that he would abandon political life and let it end with just the reform letter. Our hero asks what kind of scheme the 2 girls had concocted, and if they were truly showing their real faces as the masterminds behind hysteria. In fact, they hadn't planned anything and thought the Count was the mastermind behind it all. Suspicions that Altea and Zenonia had placed Count Palacio as the leader of the Culpa for their own interests were clarified. 3 days after the assembly began, he departed for the east, participating in the magic conference. They heard about the reform letter that Marquis Filboid received, and that he went to the Rosary. Our hero tells Evan that he didn't send that letter, and that day he said he would try to be tolerant and permissive. In reality, he just wanted to get out of that awkward situation as quickly as possible. They travel to Lartania, the city of labyrinths, which holds many possibilities for exploration. This being home to the 5 great guilds, he is famous there for having taken down 1,000 men by himself, and that the guild leaders are superhuman. The leader of the Ironblood Guild is Aldrich, and his guild wants to capture a monster on the 20th floor. They received a huge advance payment, and are in a strange area. They think it will be a trap, but he has already explored over 50 floors, and it will be easy to escape. They go to the 20th floor of the labyrinth, and the girl points to a strange man, noticing it's a goblin from behind, and that it's the weakest monster they could encounter. However, they notice his clothes seem to be from the east, and he is a bit strange. This green-skinned, white-haired man says they are making too much noise. He makes a gesture with his finger, and wipes them all out instantly. The faction leader is shocked, and charges at him, unleashing a spinning aerial strike with his axe. However, with just the lift of a finger, the monster annihilates him. The arrogant king of the hungry specters began his ascent towards the land, while our hero went to an extremely tall tower, larger than the Eiffel Tower, meeting a woman he hadn't seen in a long time. The conference schedule would begin the next day, and he wanted to go to the library. Leon showed him the location, but our hero couldn't join her. She mentioned that the Green Magic Tower would present a new theory on friendly duels. An argument with the Vice Master of the Blue Tower occurred, leaving Leon somewhat sad. The Vice Master of the Blue Tower was overly arrogant, and wouldn't stop arguing. She said that even if 20 rank 5 mages appeared, they wouldn't stand a chance against her. Then she looked at Leon, and said she was a novice who had been crushed the previous year. However, when she saw our hero, her arrogance vanished, and she bowed. Asteroid said it had been 6 months since she last saw Penha and asked how he was. She couldn't treat him informally, and remained apprehensive the entire time she was beside him. The mages even thought they were seeing an illusion, as she was always arrogant. She said the mages should get along, and Penha immediately apologized to all of them. She left, and he realized things were getting worse every time he saw her. Leon said the crazy woman knew how to be polite when he was around. Our hero knew she was arrogant and had a temper, but he didn't consider her crazy. Then a knight appeared and asked if Leon had come to see him. The knight didn't recognize our hero, and Leon introduced Count Palacio. Actually, the knight had already heard rumors and introduced himself as Baruch, son of the Master of the Purple Tower. Our hero had never seen this man before in the game. He told Leon that she would still come to like him, and they said their goodbyes. Leon said he was a rank 4 mage who liked to steal others' research to humiliate them. Our hero thought he must be a genius to reach rank 4 at his age. Each rank made a huge difference. The higher it was, the more pronounced it became. She showed him the library, which was on the 38th floor, and they agreed to meet at the presentation the next day. Our hero went to the 38th floor and began looking for 2 things. First, to set the clock hands to 12 o'clock. Next, to retrieve the untitled black book. As he placed his hand on the cover, he found the Ring of Radiance. It was a hidden compartment, and he would finally retrieve this Ring of Radiance. The next day, after the presentation at the Friendly Duels venue, Baruch wanted to challenge Count Palladio, and he hadn't expected it. Our hero thought all of this was because of Leon. She felt sorry. As he kept hitting on her and talking about marriage, Baruch approached him and wanted to give tips about the great mage who helped defeat an outer god. In reality, he wanted more influence than just being the son of the Tower Master, mentioning his contribution to defeating an outer god and dealing with a Baba Yaga's ambush. He noticed that the Count's reputation among the mages had skyrocketed, but he thought it was all an exaggeration that failed to measure an opponent's true skill. However, he noticed by the ring that he was only a rank 3 individual. He was a mage who hid behind lies and pride, and Baruch would use him as a stepping stone to gain more influence. Saying it will be a friendly duel, our hero starts to get annoyed with him, so he accepts. They say people act according to appearances, but Baruch's personality is a complete disaster. In the duel, it is stated that lethal magic is forbidden, and the duel begins. Soon, Baruch uses his wand to cast a purple spell. He will destroy the enemy's reputation and reach the top. His feet grow heavy and are frozen by Alan's magic. Our hero begins to freeze the entire arena and uses the Ring of Radiance on his finger. The technique of the Glory of the Snowlands ended the duel in mere moments. The leader of the Green Magic Tower is shocked when Pania apologizes to his disciple. Amidst many absurd rumors about the Count, they wonder what kind of man he is, so the tower leader wants to see with his own eyes. His mana pool is small, and he doesn't seem to have such a high rank. Knowledge is key in magic, and it's difficult to be born with low mana capacity. So, contrary to everyone's doubts and prejudices, our hero is stronger than that. They notice he perfectly executed a triple combination magic. Even at rank 5, the leader wouldn't be confident in such a manifestation. They wonder how he managed to do it, with the relic on his finger and another on his wrist. Through his magical artifacts, he uses the rotation technique in ice magic. Baruch begins to get trapped with little escape. They notice it's an elimination spell from the Violet Tower called Kmalin. The ice begins to explode in small concentrations, completely freezing Baruch's body. And the winner is Alan Palacio. They ask him how he organized this matrix. The leader of the Green Tower asks about a proprietary spell. He comments on catalysts based on ancient texts, and the protagonist notes their logic is archaic. It's quite shocking that he used a lost method. Our hero claims to be rank 3, and everyone finds him humble for it. Then he leaves and finds peace in the silence, realizing that the memory of the black eye he acquired from the book was very useful. It's an enhanced memorizer that stores the user's spells. When manifesting spells, the power is amplified. Also, when the magic is used in frozen lands, the glory of the snow-capped mountains is used to compensate for restrictions, and consumes 3 of the 5 magic slots. However, when he uses the ring with a black box, it provides massive amplification. Thus he uses all 5 slots as he pleases, and he finally understood the glory of the snow-capped mountains. It's a spell whose effect is to freeze the surrounding air at the moment of manifestation. He remembers the Wicked One speaking of the sentences for the keys that access the laws of magic, and that when he understands the sentence, it allows him to interfere with the laws themselves instead of just altering properties. Our hero used to use an enchantment merely as a mana enhancer. Now he will rest and prepare for the evening conference. On the 38th floor, he arrives on time and solves the enigma. He doesn't panic upon hearing that voice from beyond and manages to solve a great riddle. This is the one who inspired fear and adoration in the Repar Turbo world. The assassin Eternal Terror, known as the Chalice of the Primordial, the first human to reach rank 8 since the era of Forgotten Gods. He is Archmage Hankel. One wrong move, and it would be the end for our protagonist. He was called Hankel the Retry Witch. To get the items, he would need to choose the correct dialogue options. If he chose incorrectly, he would die instantly. Moreover, if specific items were favored, she was called the Dirty Milk Witch for instantly eliminating players. Our hero felt the essential pressure radiating from her. He had already begun preparing his defenses until she saw something behind him. Feeling a nefarious presence and seeing a red eye. Seeing her speechless, the protagonist thinks something was lost in translation. He isn't seeing things as he did in the game, and she is actually very short. She gets scared and hands him something. The girl disappears as quickly as possible, as if she were afraid of him. Our hero doesn't complain, as he got the gift very easily. The day after the friendly match, he attends the conference presentations. The protagonist thought studying with Lion was better than studying alone. He was familiar with magic control, and Lion had an exceptional magical arrangement, so it was very useful. However, she was always impressed that he was only rank 3. He thinks about starting to use rank 4 magic now that he is very advanced. On the 4th day, it is said that an outer god appeared in the Lartanya labyrinth. This caused changes in the labyrinth, and the Information Guild estimates he appeared a week ago. Our hero asks Evan to send a letter for them to leave immediately. Penna is surprised that our hero is leaving so quickly. She asks him to have a good trip, and they leave. Although she went to say goodbye, she didn't seem that sad about his departure. Several days after leaving the strangely cheerful Penia behind, in the city of Lartanya, of the labyrinths, they arrive by carriage. Evan heard that Hina is rising to the top very quickly. A universal truth is that anything is possible with money. He heard that magical tool appraisers had great influence. Although this is why he is at a loss, he wants to make a request to her. He said he has an urgent situation, and wants the girl to know that Count Palladio has arrived. The man gets annoyed, as many pushy clients arrive today claiming to be important, and says he will pay 3,000 gold coins if he wants to enter without an appointment. Our hero knows this is the price of an entire mansion, and says it will take 10 months to meet with Rene. Then, Lievald Greystone, the son of the Lord of Lartanya, appears. He hands over a bag of money to enter and speak with her, until Rene appears. and says no one needs to enter the castle. She punches the daddy's boy who is bothering her. She says she was waiting for her godfather, and bows to Alan. Her employee notices that she is always impartial and polite, but now she even bows. She tells the pushy man to leave, who is trying to get close to her. He says he has deep ties with the three councils, and that she will regret doing this. Our hero thinks he caused some kind of trouble for her, but the girl ignores it. They heard that the Lord spoils his son obsessively. She also received Alan's letter and notes that the girl is very reliable. Despite the earlier confusion, Rene and he caught up in good spirits. The other children call him a benefactor, and he is curious why she calls him godfather. She thought it was more appropriate. Alan knows that Rene is like a daughter who grew up quickly and autonomously. He has a favor to ask her at this moment. He needs influence to go to a place, and wants to go to the outer god suppression unit. He said if it's difficult because of what happened before, she doesn't have to. Rene asks if her godfather is very worried about the Lord's son. In fact, he was worried that it might cause unnecessary problems for her. She said she would resolve the request and let him rest after the journey. Evan and Alan notice that she grew up following the rules strictly. Hearing that Rene will help him brings great relief. The real problem lies with the stubborn members of the suppression unit. Suddenly the Count falls asleep and stops talking. The next day, he wakes up, and she says she has already resolved what he had asked for. She wants him to participate in the strategy meeting, and not to worry about La Veiled and Greystone. Rene says she gave him a clean elimination. La Veiled was a parasite. Lartania would be better off without him, but he is shocked by his demise. In the game, in all of Lartania's subquests, he was involved with live chimera experiments and massacres, but this is like eliminating someone from royalty. Rene noticed he was uncomfortable, and eliminated him to end the discomfort, stating that he also doesn't need to worry about the three councils. She considers him even if she considers him a godfather, he thinks it's an exaggeration for her to do all this. After all, she is a variable at the moment, and wonders how she fought against the mercenaries. He asks if it will be a problem, as her attitude was a bit inappropriate. Our hero notices she's a bit sad, and she made sure there were no loose ends for him. He understands this means they have different ways of thinking. Our hero realizes she isn't sad about what she did. She's just embarrassed to be in front of her godfather. He asks her not to do anything that would threaten his current life. She then understands this is her duty, and doesn't see it as a problem. She tells our hero she'd like to show him the Lurker's Eye while he's there. She has been collecting marks without issue using the Lurker's Eye. Our hero knows this increases the power of artifacts with a black mark. It was a normal support artifact that shouldn't have any other function. It evaluates items below a certain mana threshold. The place's fame is because of this, and that's why she was being nice to him. After 400, the collection speed decreases, and she'll only be able to finish collecting in years. Our hero doesn't know exactly what she's collecting, and she says she's finished giving him the report. They go to the meeting room, and he meets with the Outer Dezo Suppression Unit. He meets the leader of the fourth of the Great Guilds of Ancient Trackers. Mayan thinks the rumors are exaggerated, and dislikes our protagonist immediately. Maverick, who is the leader of the third of the 5 Great Guilds, is the leader of the Earth Nomad. We see Ryman, the leader of the second of the 5. He is the leader of the Arcadia Guild, and Argonia, who is the leader of the Calamandra Guild, is the first of the 5 great guilds. Our hero knows they are mercenaries who prioritize strength above all else, and are very hostile. He will have to earn their recognition at this moment. Our hero uses freezing cold, and there are 2 reasons for participating in the suppression unit. First, to gather and freeze, and the reason for this is that an outer god cannot be suppressed with conventional force, and second, he needs strong mercenaries who will follow his plan. So he showed off a bit using a combination of spells and phrases. The leaders of the 5 great guilds misinterpret this, and think the noble wants to fight them. Our hero says they asked for this, but they think he's overstepping. They point their swords at him, and our hero thinks he made some kind of blunder. He undoes the spells and provoked them for a reason. The current situation reflected a special quest from the original game, and always followed the same flow of events. In the end, if Argonia recognizes him, they won't have to fight. He finishes, and Argonia recognizes our hero, telling them to stop, and she says they underestimated him first. Our hero asks when they plan to descend into the labyrinth. Argonia says it will be in 2 days, and they will continue the meeting tomorrow because of the commotion. Our hero leaves, very frightened by the threats he received, affirming to himself that he will never do something so risky again. The blonde asks why Argonia let the arrogant noble leave. Another of them says Argonia saved the man's life. She doesn't quite understand, but if the attack had landed, Maverick would have died. A voice tells her daughter that when the black eye reveals itself in the night sky, never acknowledge it, and if possible, she must rip out his memories. A great dragon told this to Argonia, his daughter, instructing her to keep it in mind for some day. She is sure that this is what her mother warned her about hundreds of years ago. She wonders who exactly that human is, as she saw a very strange eye behind him. The next day, he was worried about how the meeting would go. They decide to follow the Count's plan without any complaints, making it a pleasant meeting that ends in unanimous decisions. Hainan, however, does nothing, and Mian remains quiet. He thinks his plan to use his game knowledge turned out to be very useful. They finish their preparations and begin descending into the labyrinth to get rid of the monsters. Looking closely, our hero certainly wouldn't have come there alone. Meow asks if our hero doesn't like beastmen. The Count said no, and demonstrated discrimination. She asks if he doesn't want to make a feline baby with her. She said they had come to understand what they needed to know about each other. Our hero is shocked, as she said something very absurd, but she is a useful member of the team. She claims to know how strong he is, and the cat tribe values strength above all else. However, he refuses to make a feline child with her. Rena says that was a very vulgar thing to say to her godfather, and offers to silence her. He said there's no need, as a beastman's way of thinking is different. On the second day in the labyrinth, they continue their battles until they find a dead end and start to get stressed. Our hero thinks they are taking too long, as they are still only on the 4th floor. In the game, you can continue as long as you meet the conditions. The 31st floor is completed by subduing a boss. They have already spent half a day looking for the entrance so far. He wonders how this place came to be, as it is enormous. Argonia creates a portal and tells them to continue to the 5th floor. Everyone enters and arrives in an outdoor area. Every 5th floor leads to a safe location. In the game, this was an extremely smooth save point. After maintenance, they will make preparations, and the outer god was sighted on the 12th, so they have time until they get there, and Maverick asks what's so funny about a man panting. After walking for a while, they are suddenly attacked. That goblin who eliminated the hunting party before reappears. They are shocked as this man wipes out several group members with a single move. He asks who is using the gaze in his eyes without permission. Then, moving his finger, he unleashes a cutting magic. Our hero shields Maverick with his ice magic, tells him to pull himself together, and tries to freeze the enemy. This villain recognizes that Alan is doing something very interesting. Our protagonist recognizes Callus, as he had seen him in the RPG game. He was insignificant, but he sought knowledge and broke the laws. He reached the divinity class on his own, becoming the king of hungry demons. When Alan recognizes him and calls his name, the demon reacts more cheerfully. According to the report, he should have arrived there in 3 days. Callus claims to be in a good mood, and will show mercy to everyone around him. However, he tells them to leave, and they will live. Our hero tells everyone to prepare for a difficult fight. Things are different from how they were with Turibus, with the mercenaries well prepared, and his incarnation state hasn't progressed that much. Callus says that if they are going to drink poison, he will join them all, descending and attacking with his absurd cutting magic. The blow begins to destroy everything, but the mercenaries emerge alive and charge at him. He notices that one of them uses a sword of dissipation, which is quite intriguing. The magic works on outer gods who have not become incarnate divinities, noticing that they have the correct preparation and continue attacking him. However, Callus dodges while they eliminate the goblins from the area. Time is crucial, and they must end this as quickly as possible to get out alive. Our hero uses the ice, the form, and the renown of the Misty Mountain, but this time he uses the pen of the blind, firing a large, powerful ice stake from his finger. Rhine uses an enchantment through her book, and iron chains emerge from portals. The chains try to pierce Callus, but he manages to dodge. Our hero uses the halberd painted with ice crystals, which goes straight for the demon. Alan knows he will die if the attack hits him. However, Callus makes an X sign with his fingers, and cancels his attack. The monster says he received the attack and calls our hero an insect. Alan is utterly shocked to see the halberd painted with ice crystals severed. The villain says the human knows nothing and will be brought down to his level. Although imperfect in his current state, it will be fun. He uses a spell with the word release, then tremble, and black tentacles begin to surge towards the mercenaries. Finally, he uses expand, which makes this magic grow in size, eliminating some humans in the area. Finally, he uses the unknown principle, emitting an enormous flash that carves a crater into the ground. The mercenaries wonder what just happened, and he unleashes another cut with his finger. They cannot dodge the attacks coming from above. Mian will try to save one of his friends. He has high expectations for how Alan will entertain him. Our hero didn't know Callus could use phases and chance, and he is shocked, realizing a vast difference not only in abilities, but also in information and battle plans. They are losing in every sense, especially in power. All he can do is use the renown of a misty mountain, unleashing his magic to its maximum potential. He uses the phrase of resolution and the ring on his finger. Finally, he uses the phrase revolution, and the magic expands, forming a ring of ice. He is using it at high speed and in exorbitant numbers. He realizes it's working, and asks Ryan for help, as if belittling their determination. Our hero gets angry at this, as if it were a cat playing with a mouse. He watched the amusement as they grew desperate. Our hero couldn't stop thinking about defending himself from his invisible slashing attacks. Expending a lot of magic, even his hands became frozen. He uses 5 mana potions, and the side effects appear. When Callus approaches, he tells Ryan to act with her chains. She performs another enchantment using a book in the portals. Our hero uses the Pen of the Blind again, and all its phrases, reducing one of the penalties, as he could gain the ability to twist the laws of the world with another restriction. But he cannot do this lightly. As he begins to feel the side effects, he remembers the Wicked One telling him to find a way to extract all of this, and he uses his last resort. The Wicked One said that when it came to the magic of this world, after the phrase came the principle. Finally, the manifestation of one's true nature, and everything our hero had experienced. He wondered what could surpass the principle. He looked for a clue, and found the answer in a mark. Realization and illusion come from the same root. When he achieves this, he will receive the key. This is the voice from beyond, belonging to someone unknown at the moment. When he does exactly what the voice commanded and finds his essence, Callus is shocked, finding it very unsettling, and unleashes another invisible slashing attack, severing Reiner's chains until our hero places his hand on her arm, taking a deep cut to his own arm that wounds him severely. As soon as Bodazri's sign is complete, what was once a spear transforms into a key. We see the large ice crystal turning into a key, and it fixes itself into the crystals in turns. Thus, he uses the ice crystal painted halberd, placing his hand under his finger with the magical artifact. The key begins to turn, creating a gigantic ice magic. The glacier reaches the level of the plains, so high and massive it is. Magic is a law of the world decided by mages. Following the will of an architect, like the law of the pen, is an unnatural alteration of these laws. Our hero sees the great glacier he created and believes this is self-expression. However, Celius manages to shatter this mountain of ice he created. It's a level of magic that should have been unavailable to him. He achieved his goal. Celius was struck, and his body became weak and completely frozen. If he had manifested properly, he could have very easily blocked his expression. Our hero says that hypothesis makes no sense, and Callus agrees, stating he lost, and begins to be destroyed in the air. Our hero falls, extremely weak after using everything he had within him. Renee begins to say he's okay, and tries to heal him somehow. His head is hurting too much, and he gets up, but there's no one in the room. He is at the suppression unit's camp, and cannot gather the strength to stand. Nerve paralysis isn't so bad, as it's curable. Abusing mana potions and suffering from mana poisoning results in this. He permanently loses his mana flow or suffers from its sclerosis, but he is grateful to be alive, and Rain is happy her godfather has woken up. He was unconscious for a day, and is still disoriented due to mana poisoning. She told him that Mion is recovering quickly after the cuts. Argonia barely made it out alive because of it, but surviving the attack made her wonder if she's half-dragon. She asks her godfather why he saved her, if her life is worth so much that he would risk failure to save her. Our hero starts to feel a lot of pain, and hides it. She asked why. She said it was useless, and that he had to put himself in danger to save her from Salus' blow. Even if there's value in completing the Lurker's Eye, she finds it inefficient. Our hero said he didn't take in the children to use them. Our hero realizes that all the children think they were taken in to be used by him, as if he were destined to be a villain, but in reality, he considers everyone part of his family. It's natural to save her, just as the girl saved him before, being a relationship that isn't one-sided, nor based on profit and exploitation. She thought she was a tool he created to deal with the black pests. She finally understands Alan Palladio's consideration for the children, and is happy. 5 days after that, he had recovered enough to move a little. Asking if Argonia could move, she said very little. Then they managed to get out of the labyrinth after 3 more days. When they return, Evan asks how they got so injured, getting angry at his master for not accompanying him, and for him returning full of injuries. He had trusted that the guild leaders and he would be fine, and everyone returned very wounded. If Evan, who had no relation to this event in the game, had come, it would probably cause problems for the plan. When the praises for the suppression unit spread throughout the region, it was time for them to leave Murda. They left by carriage, and Rhine asks when our hero's birthday is. She remembers the date so she can give him a gift in the future. Our hero tells Evan that he's not that excited because he already receives many gifts. But Evan says it will be different with the children celebrating with him. He thinks she might send a small artifact to our hero. Rhine is very happy to have a family. Given that the Great Moon is a fundamental being for them, their faith and irreverence are evident. Our hero believed that his victory would be just something natural. However, he recognized that he could get closer to what had been just another word for him, which is the word family. And the word Godfather became not only a symbol of respect, but a description of their relationship. She knows that if her godfather needs her, she will act immediately. She begins to plan a birthday gift for the man who recognized her as a member of his family. For her first gift, the Lord's castle will suffice in her view. As summer passed through the palace territory, winter arrived. He recovered from the poisoning symptoms and caught up on the piles of territorial work. Evan says a package arrived from the Altia estate and a communication crystal. The girl contacts him to say they will make a report for him. This is Duke Altia, and he is now the faction leader and won't get used to a duke bowing to account. She tells how the Cal faction has been operating and handled the matters he requested. As of yesterday, the underworld of the Asteria Kingdom is under their faction's control. She congratulates our hero after he said they should clean up the underworld first. He said that without much thought, and things became reality. The underworld has countless organizations and was almost impossible to control. That's why he said something without much pretension. She said it was much easier because he had overthrown the leaders of the royalist and aristocratic factions. Our hero thought it was them, not him, but it was the other way around. She asks if the next step is to overthrow the king. Our hero asks them to keep things as they are, and they conclude the report in the meeting. He went from a master of shadows to the ruler of the underworld in the blink of an eye. An invitation to the royal ball arrives for Alan Palladio. His Majesty the King himself orders that the news be sent to him and that he be invited to the ball. All our hero wanted was a carefree noble life. Not this anymore. Someone goes to the 5th floor of the labyrinth and didn't expect our hero to get so far, finding it very interesting and wondering if he'll endure next time. Meanwhile, he wondered why the queen had summoned him and knew it was because of the Cal faction. Asteria's 8th monarch, Cain Cretinia, is the bearer of the Golden Archives, an ability passed down through the royal lineage. She possesses the ability to inherit information like game data, allowing her to pass her strength to the next generation. The existence of this ability is a powerful symbol of royal authority. When the 5 cardinal sins appear in Asteria in the game, she briefly joins the player's team and demonstrates incredible power. And now this queen will take action because of underworld dealings. Cain was popular, and the community made memes of her being a guardian dragon. Our hero optimistically thinks this could be good, and that this incident might end up diminishing the Cal faction's power. If he doesn't anger the queen and has an excuse to stay on good terms with the faction, this could be good. He's basically an observer and a spectator, so I think everything will be fine. He doesn't think they are challenging the royalty's authority. We see a bandit placing his foot on the man wearing an eye mask, realizing he had died after they were asked to finish him off in the palace. Then the purple-haired man orders them to quickly eliminate the man he requested and threatens to call the assassin's boss. Baldy will confirm the situation and will become a scapegoat at this rate. He notices an anti-decomposition spell serving as a warning, which is an absurd threat. He knows the assassin's boss will freak out if he learns they lost their 100% success rate. The rumors that Count Alan is skilled are not lies. Baldy decides to ask someone who understands the matter and goes to Caliban. He arrives behind a man who notices his presence, and Baldy realizes he should have erased his tracks. Then he appears with his scythe poised to strike down the man, demanding information about Count Palacio. Even though he is his benefactor, with his life at risk, it's inevitable that he won't help him. As he moves to threaten God Michael Ion, a wire appears around his neck. He looks up and notices people trapped in spiderwebs. They are evil, cursed spirits. God Michael Ion notices that this bald man is also one of these agents of evil. Soon, the wires begin to bind him, preventing him from attacking God. He is severely wounded, and Michael Ion is the man controlling these wires. Meanwhile, our hero attends the meetings and hears many absurdities, SEO wanting to marry him, and other discussions taking place. They notice that Renee is trying hard to calm Seo Rang, which is very unusual, so Renee's would like to make a proposal to Yucha. They also want to send report letters about the lurking eye. She wants to report this personally, and Yucha asks if she is doing a bad job. However, Renee's would like to convey this personally to our hero, as well as reports about her, and suddenly they notice she is smiling a lot. God Michael Ion returns, stained with vital fluids, and apologizes for the delay. Before they begin the meeting, he has an urgent matter to discuss with them, saying that an organization known as the Agents has targeted the Great Moon. There are 15 in total, and he has already dealt with 3, leaving 12 members. He has already located several, and all the boys want to eliminate them. They plan to find out how strong they are before acting, gathering more information to devise a better plan. Everyone disagrees with Hatem, thinking he is a traitor for wanting to make a plan before simply attacking the agents. He wants to understand the situation first, before simply eliminating the agents. Being heavily judged, he says he is wrong and tells them to act first. Yuchao resumes the meeting before they deal with this situation. Hatem finds it absurd to be called a traitor, as he would never do such a thing. After all, he received the opportunity to gain power and revenge, and his loyalty is unwavering. However, he thinks everyone is too fanatical and devoted to the Great Moon. Back in the capital of Asteria, at the royal castle, our hero arrives and ascends the stairs. The leader of the Chao faction is so influential that all the nobles follow him. He is no longer an outcast as he was in the past, but he doesn't find this much better, as he hates being followed, because it seems he will lead a direct attack on the queen, which is why they follow him like this. But if everyone gets scolded together, his plan will be more effective. So he enters with his horde of nobles following him. He finds the royal palace an incredible place, and notices that the aristocratic and royalist factions are obvious. They came along because they think the chaos faction will get scolded by the queen. All he will do is listen to the scolding and bow his head if that happens. He arrives and greets the great ruler who leads Asteria. The queen of Asteria, Cyancritinia, asks if he is Count Palladio. The factions he defeated begin to get excited about the scolding he is about to receive. Then she grants him the title of Marquis at this moment.